Okay, good afternoon. Thank you for your patience. Welcome to the October 11th, 2022, 1 p.m. docket for the Board of Municipal and Zoning Appeals in City Hall. My name is Becky Witt. I'm the Assistant Counsel to the Board as well as currently the Acting Executive Director. We have Leland Shelton, James Fields, who is the Chair of the Board, Bill Cunningham, and then Sabrina Johnson-Turner as well. If you haven't already, please silence your cell phones. If you need to have a conversation with someone, please do so out in the lobby, and be mindful of the noise out there. You might want to close the door if it's getting a little bit noisy out there so that we don't hear you in here. When it's your turn to speak, please identify yourself and spell your name for the court reporter and be sworn in to testify. If you haven't already signed in up here at the sign-in sheet and you plan to speak today, please sign in now. You can also sign in if you want to get notice of the outcome of the hearing or of any appeals. So everyone who wants to speak should sign in, including attorneys, applicants, opposition support. The board's decision today, our oral vote that the board takes does not make the decision final. We have to write a decision in a document called a resolution, and that's a process that takes several weeks because it needs to be drafted and then reviewed and approved by the board. We try to get you our resolutions within 30 days, but you can reach out to us if you haven't heard from us after 30 days. We will likely send them to you via email. If you're unhappy about the outcome of your case, you have the right to request reconsideration of the board's decision within 10 days, and you also have the right to appeal the board's decision to the circuit court within 30 days of the issuance of the resolution. Please remember always to speak into the microphone if it's your turn to speak. I'm going to be reminding you all of this if you forget, as well as the board members, because sometimes they forget too. We need to have everyone speaking into the microphone so that we have a clear transcript and we have a clear recording for Charm TV, because this is being recorded for both. And I think that is it from me. I'll turn it over to the chair.
Okay. At the conclusion of your matter, those are the contested matters, we will endeavor to reach a decision. Again, the decision isn't final until you get the written resolution. And we will undertake those deliberations unless we find that we need some additional information. We've asked you to come back to bring some additional evidence that would assist us in applying the standards and ruling on your matter. But in any event, if you can't stay for the remainder of the matter and you don't hear what the decision is, you feel free to contact the BMZA office tomorrow morning at 410-396-4301 and ask what at least the oral decision was. For those that are involved in contested matters, I don't know how much opposition there would be. Just be mindful of the folks that are also opposing the issue, and mindful of the basis of their opposition. We just would caution you not to, if you can, repeat the basis for opposition. We don't need everybody to come up to say the same thing. That's pretty much what I'm saying. For those matters that are on the consent docket, as you know, those matters are matters for which we believe we have sufficient information to approve the appeal. So it's a fairly succinct process. You'll come up, we'll call your case, we'll hear reports from planning and staff. We'll ask you if you have anything else you want to add to the record, and for all intents and purposes, it'll be an approval, because the board will have heard sufficient information to approve the appeal, and that would be your oral decision. And so when we call the consent docket, obviously it's a long list, but not obviously, but it is a long list. I'd ask you to line up in front of me here at the podium, to my left, on down in the order in which the case has been called, and then we'll hear your matter. All right? And with that, we'll go ahead and start the consent docket, calling case number 2022-294, 246 North Rose Street. Aaron Simon is the appellant. Next consent case is 2022-295, 1505 Utah Place, AB Associates. Is the appellant. Case number 2022-297, 3124 Dillon Street. Michael Numpfel is the appellant. 2022-298, 3220 Strickland Street. Division LLC is the appellant. 2022-299, 1518 Boyle Street. Nick De Paola is the appellant. 2022-301, 5505 Wexford Road. Zyger Sneed Architects LLP is the appellant. Case number 2022-303, 1701 East Patapsco Avenue. Christopher Mudd, Esquire is the appellant. Case number 2022-331, 833 South Decker Street. Courtney Horst is the appellant. 2022-334, 1212 Union Avenue. Garrett Adler is the appellant. 2022-339, 4303 Woodley Avenue. Alonzo Brown, the appellant. 2022-340, 3306 Clarin Road. Donnie Ancree is the appellant. 2022-341, 2331 Barclay Street. Inshira Abdullaha is the appellant. 2022-343, 117 through 119 West 24th Street. Our Time Kitchen is the appellant. 2022-345, 213 Tuscany Road. Adam Corballo is the appellant. 2022-349, 2245 Eastern Avenue. Overcare Health Services is the appellant. 2022-367, 3801 Hanover Street. Civil Unlimited is the appellant. And that's the consent docket. If we could have all the parties sworn.
You all raise your right hand, please. You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Calling case number 2022-294, 246 North Rose Street. Aaron Simon. Are you Mr. Simon?
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. There's a request to use the premises for 2 dwelling units. Variance is required for off-street parking. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. May I hear from staff and planning?
So this project is to use the property as multifamily dwelling with 2 dwelling units in an R8 zoning district. 2 variances are requested here. A minimum lot area variance, so 1,500 square feet is required. 926 square feet exists, so it would be a 574 square foot variance. And off-street parking, 1 space is required for the additional dwelling unit. 0 spaces are proposed here, so it's a 1 space variance. Just for the board's understanding, the last legal use of this property is commercial on the first floor and at 1 dwelling unit above. So they're taking the first floor, which was commercial, some kind of commercial use, and turning that into a dwelling unit. So it's not considered a conversion to use that first floor for another dwelling unit under the board's interpretation of the code.
Thank you. Martin French for the Baltimore City Planning Department. Planning Department has reviewed this application and has no objection to its approval. The department recommends that the board make the approval conditional upon the applicant complying with the terms and conditions of the Baltimore City Code Article 23, which is the sanitation code. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Simon, do you have any objection to complying with the sanitation code?
No, sir.
Okay. Is there anything you'd like to add to your application at this time?
No, sir.
All right. The board, having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much.
All right. Good luck. Case number 2022-295, 1505 Utah Place. AB Associates. Mr. Cassignola, thank you. Welcome. This is a request to use a portion of the premises as a restaurant in connection with culinary training facility. Is that correct?
True.
All right. You hear from staff and planning?
So the project is to add a restaurant use to an existing cultural facility in an OR1 zoning district. So it'd be neighborhood commercial as a restaurant. There is an MOU in place, I believe you have it in the file, with the Madison Park Improvement Association and the Bolton Hill Community Association. There are 6 conditions, which are in the MOU, limiting food and beverage service to the building areas that are highlighted in yellow in the MOU. Alcohol service can begin no earlier than 11 a.m. Sunday through Saturday. and also no later than 10 p.m. Sunday through Thursday and midnight Friday and Saturday. All events have to be approved by the director of the organization or other designee of that organization that is going to be running this restaurant use. The organization has to meet annually with the community associations, and that they will have a designated point of contact for events.
Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that this property is located in the Madison Park South Urban Renewal Area, also the Bolton Hill Historic District. The urban renewal plan does not prevent the proposed use or restrict it. However, it does contain this statement: no building may be constructed with or altered to produce a storefront, show windows, or display window. The applicant is advised to note that condition. Also, there should be no display from windows or doors. These are conditions in the urban renewal plan. Separately, the department notes that in the Bolton Hill Historic District, any exterior changes would require approval by the Commission for Historical and Architectural Preservation. The department therefore recommends that approval of the application be subject to the conditions that the operation of the proposed use complies with all provisions of the Madison Park South Urban Renewal Plan, and that all exterior changes, including additions, demolitions, alterations, and signage, are completed or installed in accordance with an authorization to proceed issued by the Commission for Historical and Architectural Preservation. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. French. Mr. Castagnola, you in agreement with those conditions?
No issue with those conditions.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add to your application at this time?
There's a lot of ongoing enthusiasm for this project, and thank you all for taking up this into consideration.
Very well. The board, having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Case number 2022-296, 1744 Jackson Street. John Bolster? Did I get the wrong one?
Yep. Mike Knopfel
Oh.
for
Wait a minute.
Dillon Street.
Did I call 296 earlier?
I think so.
Do we have anyone here for 22-296, 1744 Jackson Street? Okay. We'll skip that. Sorry.
That's all right.
Let's get to the real Mr. Knopfel. Please stand up. 2022-297, 3124 Dillon Street.
That's me.
All right, Mr. Knopfel, thanks. This matter involves a variance to construct a two-story rear addition and rooftop deck. Is that
Yes.
correct? All right. I'll hear from staff and planning.
So there are two variances being requested here. One is maximum lot coverage, 80% allowed, 81.4% is proposed here, so it's a 1.4% variance. And minimum rear yard setback, 20 feet is required, 10 feet, 4 inches is proposed, so it would be a 9 foot, 8-inch variance requested.
The Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Knopfel, is there anything you'd like to add to your application, sir?
No, there's not.
All righty. Board, having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Case number 2022-298, 3220 Strickland Street. Division LLC is the applicant, or the appellant, and you, sir, are?
Chauncey Dawkins.
Mr. Dawkins, all right. This matter addresses a variance to bulk regulations to construct a two-story rear addition. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. We'll hear from staff and planning.
Okay, all I have on my report is a minimum interior side yard setback, but on both sides. 10 feet is required on each side, and 1.7 feet and 1 foot is proposed on either side. So it would be two variances, 8.3 feet and 9 feet.
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Dawkins, is there anything you'd like to add to your application today, sir?
No, thank you.
All righty. The board, having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Have a good one.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Case number 2022-299, 1518 Boyle Street. All right. Nick DePaula,
Yes,
that work?
that works.
Thank you, sir. This matter addresses a variance to construct a two-story rear addition and rooftop deck. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Staff and planning, we'll hear from?
Two variances here. One is maximum lot coverage, 80% is allowed, 88% is proposed, so it would be an 8% variance being requested. And a minimum rear yard setback, 20 feet is required, 7 feet is proposed, so it'd be a 13-foot variance.
The Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
All right. Mr. DePaula, is there anything you'd like to add to your application today, sir?
No, sir.
All right. Board, having heard your appeal, We believe you have sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Great, thank you.
Good luck to you. Case number 2022-301, 5505 Wexford Road. Zyger Sneed Architects LLP is the appellant. And you, sir?
Christopher Brown, architect with Sigersneed Architects.
Okay, Mr. Brown? All righty. This matter addresses a variance to bulk regulations related to the construction of a new 350-square-foot, single-story addition in the rear yard at the southeast corner, attached to the existing house, and associated structural alterations. The interior plan alterations totaling 185 square feet to the master bedroom suite and the bathroom. Is that accurate?
Yes?
Okay. I'll hear from staff and planning.
This is Wexford Road, right? Minimum interior side yard setback, 15 feet required, 8 feet proposed, so it'd be a 7-foot variance requested.
The Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Brown, is there anything you'd like to add to your application today, sir? No?
Nope.
All right, well, the board, having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck to you. Case number 2022-303, 1701 East Patapsco Avenue. The appellant is Christopher Mudd, Esquire, and we have,
My name is Caitlin Peach. I'm a colleague of Mr. Mudd's.
okay, I'm sorry, your last name, ma'am?
Peach, like the fruit, P-E-A-C-H.
Okay, thank you so much. This matter seeks a parking variance to allow 260 off-street parking spaces. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I'll hear from staff and planning.
Okay, so the only variance requested is off-street parking. 94 spaces are required, 260 are proposed. So it's a 72-space variance because the appellant is providing too much parking. The code allows you to have, by right, up to double the required amount of parking. So double the required amount would be 188 spaces. They're providing 260 spaces.
Planning Department has reviewed this application, noted that this property is located in the Fairfield Urban Renewal Plan area. The Urban Renewal Plan does not prevent the proposed use. The department also notes that this property is within the Chesapeake Bay Critical Area and floodplain, and the proposed expansion would comply with those requirements and regulations. The department therefore recommends approval of the application, subject to the condition that all improvements and landscaping are completed and maintained in accordance with the approved development plan for this property. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Peach, are you in agreement with those conditions?
Yes.
Okay. Would you like to donate some of that parking to other areas of the city? Could sorely use it?
Unfortunately, I think we're going to use it.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add to your application at this time?
Nope, we would just ask that you approve the 260 spaces.
All right. Well, the board, having heard your appeal, we believe you have sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good luck to you. That is different.
Very different.
Okay, case number 2022-331, 833 South Decker Street, Courtney Horst. Are you Ms. Horst?
Yes, I am.
Welcome. This matter addresses the variance to bulk yard regulations to construct additions at the second floor rear and third floor. Is that
Correct.
I'll hear from staff and planning.
So there are two variances here. One, maximum lot coverage, 80% allowed, 88% is proposed, so it'd be an 8% variance requested, and a minimum rear yard setback variance. 20 feet is allowed, 8 feet 3 inches is proposed, so it'd be an 11-foot 9-inch variance requested.
The Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Ms. Horst, is there anything you'd like to add to your application today?
Yes, we've received letters of agreement from both of our next-door neighbors on either side.
Okay, if you'd like to hand those up, we'll make them part of the record. Okay, just hand it up. And anything else?
No, that's it.
All right, well, the board, having heard your appeal, we believe you have sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Great, thank you very much.
Case number 2022-334, 1212 Union. No? Nobody here for 1212 Union Avenue? All right. I'm sorry?
I said, my company did the plans and permits for that. I can step in.
Okay. You want to appear for Mr. Adler?
Sure, yeah. Hi. My name's Josh Nicodemus, owner of NW2 Engineers. We did
Okay.
the plans for the project.
Well, were you sworn earlier?
No, I wasn't. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Come back up.
Okay, got
We can
it.
swear you now.
Okay,
Raise your right hand.
sure.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth of the drive?
I do.
How do you spell your last name?
Nicodemus.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Nicodemus, this matter addresses a variance to bulk yard regulations to construct an addition at second floor front and rear, and to construct a two-story side addition. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah.
All right. I'll hear from staff and planning.
Two variances are being requested here. One, the minimum front yard setback, 11 feet is required, which is the block face average of that block. 0 feet is proposed, so it'd be an 11-foot variance requested. And then a minimum interior side yard setback, also on both sides. 10 feet is required. So on one side, it's 0 feet being proposed. On the other side, it's 8 feet 4 inches being proposed. So it'd be a 10-foot variance and a 3 feet 8-inch variance on either side.
Oh, I'm so sorry, everyone.
The planning department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Mr. Nicodemus, is there anything else you'd like to add to the application today, sir?
No, sir. Thanks for letting me step in.
He owes you.
Yes, yeah. I'll make sure to remind him that.
The board, having heard your appeal, we believe have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank
Wonderful.
you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Case number 2022-339, 4303 Woodley Avenue. Hear the question mark in my voice when I call the case, because I don't know. Alonzo Brown?
Yes.
Good afternoon, sir.
How you doing?
I'm well. This matter addresses variance to bulk regulations to construct a two-story, single-family detached dwelling. Variance required for off-street parking. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'll hear from staff and planning.
There are 3 variances being requested here. One is a minimum front yard setback, 25 feet is required, 0 is proposed, so it's a 25-foot variance. Minimum interior side yard setback on both sides again, so 10 feet is required on each side, and one side will be 9 feet, the other side will be 8 feet. So it's a 1 foot and 2 foot variance requested on either side. And then off-street parking, 1 space is required. As far as we know, 0 is proposed, so it would be a 1 space variance for off-street parking.
The planning department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Mr. Brown, is there anything else you'd like to add to your application, sir?
That's it.
The board, having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
Case number 2022-340, 3306 Clarin Road. Donnie Ancree is the appellant, and you, sir?
Yes, I represent for Don Yankri. My name is Gabriel.
Gabriel,
Mafra, M-A-F-R-A.
just make sure the gentleman can hear you.
Gabriel Mafra, M-A-F-R-A.
Okay. This matter addresses the variance to bulk regulations to construct a two-story front addition with a covered front porch. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, I'll hear from staff and planning.
So there's 1 variance being requested, a minimum interior side yard setback, 10 feet is required, 3 is proposed, so it would be a 7-foot variance.
The planning department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Sir, is there anything you'd like to add to your application today?
It's a tight-knit community. The client spoke to the neighbor. The neighbor commented no concerns regarding the addition.
Okay. The board, having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, case number 2022-341, 2331 Barclay Street, and pardon my mispronunciation if I get it wrong, Inshira Abdulilala.
That's good.
Laha, I'm sorry. Welcome. This is a request to use the ground floor as a neighborhood commercial establishment. Is that
Yes.
correct? All right, I'll hear from staff and planning.
So this is a conditional use request to use the ground floor for retail sales under the neighborhood commercial establishment section of the code. Just the history of the property. The zoning cards are a little bit unclear, but there does seem to have been some kind of history of commercial use. It's just not clear from the cards what it was, going back several decades. And I think that's it for me.
Planning department has no comment on this application, but notes that its records that it was able to gain access to indicated the property was previously used as a retail goods establishment with alcoholic beverage sales. Therefore, the proposed use would extinguish non-conforming use of the property. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. What kind of store is it going to be?
Corner store, convenience store.
A corner store and convenience store? All right. Okay. The board do you have anything you'd like to add to your application today?
No.
No? All right. No, the board having heard your appeal, we believe you have sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Case number 2022-343, 117 through 119 West 24th Street. Good afternoon. Our Time Kitchen is the appellant, and you are, ma'am?
Katina Smith,
All right, Ms. Smith, is that Katina?
Catina,
CA?
Smich.
And this is a request to use the premises as a restaurant to include commissary kitchen / commercial kitchens.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct? All right, I'll hear from staff and planning.
So the zoning administrator has determined that this use would be under food processing light, which is a conditional use in this zoning district. There already is a restaurant here, so to add the commercial kitchen would be food processing light. There is a letter of support in the file from a community member and no opposition.
The Planning Department has reviewed this application and recommends its approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. Ma'am, is there anything you'd like to add to your application today?
We did grab some signatures of people that support us.
Okay,
You guys
we'll hand them
like
up,
that?
we'll make them part of the record.
Yeah, we have a lot of small businesses depending on us, so thank you for your support.
Thank you. If there's nothing further, the board having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you.
All right, good luck to you. Case number 2022-345, 213 Tuscany Road. Adam Carballo is the appellant. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
This matter addresses variance to bulk regulations to construct the rear deck. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Alrighty. Staff and planning, hear from you?
So there is a minimum rear yard setback being requested. 25 feet is required, 12.5 feet is proposed, so it's a 12.5-foot variance.
The Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Mr. Carballo, is there anything you'd like to add to your application today?
No, sir.
Alrighty. Board having heard your appeal, we believe you have sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Case number 2022-349, 2245 Eastern Avenue. Overcare Health Services is the appellant, and you, sir, are?
Charles Wangui, Wangui.
Just make sure John can hear you.
Charles, last name Wangui, Wangui. Thank you.
All right, sir. This is a request to use the premises as a healthcare clinic for the delivery of outpatient therapy and behavioral health services. Is that correct?
Correct, sir.
Okay. I'll hear from staff and planning.
There is one conditional use being requested here, healthcare clinic, and yeah, that's it.
The Planning Department has reviewed this application and has no objection to its approval. Thank you.
Sir, is there anything you'd like to add to your application today?
No, just to appreciate you. Thank you for your support.
Okay, the board having heard your appeal, we believe you have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you.
Thank you.
2022-367, 3801 South Hanover Street. The appellant is Civil Unlimited.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. Your name?
Stephen Schmoniak.
Can you spell that for us, please?
No problem. Stephen, Stephen. Last is Shymonik.
All right. And this matter addresses a variance to bulk regulations to subdivide the premises into 4 lots, retaining the existing structures. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'll hear from staff and planning.
There's one variance being requested here, a minimum rear yard setback variance. 20 feet is required, 0 is proposed for the existing structures, so it'd be a 20-foot variance requested.
The Planning Department has no official comment on this application, but notes that this requires a subdivision approval by the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. Sir, is there anything you'd like to add to your application at this time?
Not at all. Thank you.
All righty. The board having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Good luck to you. Okay. 296. Got it. Bottom of this page. Recalling case 2022-296, 1744 Jackson Street. John Bolster. Welcome, sir. This matter addresses variance to bulk regulations to construct an addition at the second floor rear and a rooftop deck.
Correct.
Okay, I'll hear from staff and planning.
There is a minimum rear yard setback variance being requested. 25 feet is required. 22 feet is being proposed, so it'd be a 3-foot variance.
The Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Mr. Bolster, is there anything you'd like to add to your application today, sir?
No, thank you.
All righty, the board having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank
so
you.
much. And I'll call one more time, case number 2022-334, 1212 Union Avenue. Garrett Adler. Wait a minute. No, not that one. He came up. Don't need to recall it. He pulled a save. Okay. All right, so we turn our attention to the regular docket at this time. Okay, we're going to start with case number 2022-252, 2245 McElderry Street. AB Associates is the appellant. Everybody who's here for this case, please come up, including the opposition. We'll get you all sworn.
One more is going to be joining. He is
Okay.
in the restroom.
All right, we'll just bear with him for a minute.
Come.
Solid lots, construct a multifamily dwelling.
We're all here.
Everybody here?
Yeah.
All right, could we swear the parties, please?
Swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Okay. This,
Michael Castagnola. You want me to spell it?
Yeah, please.
C-A-S-T is in Tom, A is in Apple, G is in Grandma, N is in Nancy, O-L-A. You're welcome.
and folks, to the extent you testify, we will ask you to state your name so the record is clear as to who's speaking. But this matter addresses or seeks to consolidate lots and to construct a multifamily dwelling consisting of 10 units.
True.
Variance required for off-street parking, is that correct?
True.
I'll hear
There's
from...
also rear and side lot variances required.
Okay,
Martin's going to say something about it.
all right, I'll hear from staff and planning.
Okay, so I have two variances. There might be a third one based on what Mr. Castagnola just said. A minimum interior side yard setback, 10 feet is required, 0 is proposed, so it'd be a 10-foot variance. And off-street parking, to my knowledge, there's no parking proposed, so it'd be a 10-space variance requested for each of the 10 dwelling units. And if there's a rear yard setback too, then Mr. Castagnola will have to explain that to the board.
Thank you. Planning Department has reviewed this application, noted this, the three properties proposed for consolidation and the proposed use. I believe 2 of those are currently vacant properties. The third one is occupied by a 1-story commercial building, which would be removed. The issue that the Planning Department has concerns about is the request for the number of dwelling units, which is 10. This would require a lot area variance of 23%, and the department encourages the applicant to provide the board with information that would enable consideration of that variance according to the standards of subsection 5-308. The property would not require a lot coverage variance. However, the property would require a rear yard setback variance. The proposed amount is 5 feet for the interior side lot line, as opposed to a standard of 10 feet required. And the other variance would be a 3-foot, to allow the property, the new building, to reach within 3 feet of the rear lot line of the lots now known as 2247 and 2249, which would be next to an adjoining property known as 530 North Patterson Park Avenue. The requirement in the zoning code would be 25 feet, so that's a substantial amount of variance. The department is concerned that the proposed setbacks could be raising issues of safety and privacy for the neighboring residents. That said, the department has no objection to the application. but notes that design of the proposed multifamily structure and its grounds needs to be reviewed for compliance with the design manual and the landscape manual. Should the board determine the application to be approvable, the department recommends that approval would be subject to these conditions. One, that the development of the consolidated lots is completed in accordance with building plans and landscaping plans approved by the Department of Planning. And two,
Martin, could you read that one again?
yes, sir. Should the board determine that the application is approvable, the department recommends that approval of the application be subject to these conditions. One, the development of the consolidated lots is completed in accordance with building plans and landscaping plans approved by the Department of Planning. And two, that the use of the property would comply with terms and conditions of the Baltimore City Code Article 23, which is the sanitation code. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Castagnola, do you agree to those conditions?
Yep, sure, yes.
Okay.
Ms. Witt, was there a posting issue with this?
Yeah, so, or possibly. So I think Ms. Gross is here on your right, and she sent in I think a couple of photographs to show that the sign was torn down on Sunday, and there was kind of a back and forth with the applicant and also with Ms. Gross about whether or not this means that the hearing needs to be postponed. So I'm sure that the people here today want to talk more about the sign and how much it was up in the past 21 days.
Well, why don't we take that issue up, because we don't want to hear it if it shouldn't be heard. I'll hear from you, Mr. Castagnola, with regard to posting.
The sign was vandalized and torn down. It was then reposted. Our assumption, it was down for not too long because it was like filled with live insects on the tape in the back. But it was vandalized, ripped down, and we reposted it as soon as we found out.
How long is not too long?
You live in the neighborhood. My guess is like 2 to 4 days.
Okay. Ma'am, your name?
Hi, I'm Cynthia Gross, Gross. I guess I'm here in two different positions, but I am here as the president of the Care Community Association. So yes.
Because now I want to hear about posting issues.
Okay.
Whether or not.
Okay, that's fine. So I think what this gentleman said sums it up. I just happened to go by there on Sunday.
Yes, ma'am.
To look at the sign, to make sure. I didn't know if this was going to be virtual or whatever was going on, so I want to make sure I have the information, and it wasn't there. So that's when I sent the email later on that night saying, hey, where's the sign, what's going on, or whatever. And then I never heard anything. I called this morning and it went to voicemail, whatever the situation is. So then I happened to be going back past there this morning, before I got here, and another new sign was up. A new sign was up, but the first one was down and it was in the ground, and I sent pictures of that one. But the new sign that was up did not make reference to any variances. So it just talked about lot consolidation. So I don't even know if the first sign had all the information on it about variances or whatever. But the new sign that he said was posted whenever didn't have any information about the variances.
So the information that the sign was down maybe 2 to 4 days, is that possibly consistent with what?
I can speak on that.
Yeah, I don't know. I just know.
Okay.
My name is Daniel Berryman.
Step up, sir.
My name is Daniel Berryman. I am from Berryman Construction. I was in the area on Saturday, and the sign was still posted on Saturday.
How do you spell your last
Berryman.
The sign was still posted on Saturday, so what information do you have as to how long the sign was down?
That I couldn't. So the sign was still up. The original sign was still up on Saturday. I think she said she noticed it down on Sunday.
Okay. Today's Tuesday. And it went back up?
On the 8th.
Okay. Let me ask Ms. Witt. So do we have a protocol when, obviously the posting requires that a sign be up for a period of consecutive days prior to a hearing. What of a circumstance, assuming there's some kind of vandalism that is not the fault of the applicant that is seeking to comply with that requirement?
So I was talking with Roxanne about this morning. She said that generally speaking, if somebody from the community notices that the sign's not posted properly and sends in a photograph showing that, then we just pull the matter from the docket and reschedule it as a matter of course. When she sent the email to Mr. Castagnola saying this matter is going to be postponed because the sign was not posted properly, then he explained that they had replaced it. And so that's why it's before you today, is that, I wanted the board to decide whether posting had been complied with. And there's nothing specific in our rules, or I don't believe in our standard operating procedures about what to do. I think it's a judgment call from the board. Has the property been posted properly for 21 days?
Who's Roxanne, and how about the issue of that variance was not mentioned in the second posting?
Roxana is our legal assistant who was just here earlier.
Oh, okay. I know who Roxanne is.
Yeah. And then in terms of the variance, I don't know what she sent. She's the one who sends out the wording for the sign. The wording for the sign doesn't seem, because there's nothing about variances on the sign, it doesn't match what was on the docket, which does say that there are variances requested. So I don't know, the board, I don't know, if the board thinks that means that it needs to be postponed in order to show that there were variances being requested.
The concern that is raised, whether it's an improper posting by the poster or whether it's vandalism, is that there's not the required number of days that the sign is up so that the public has access to see it and know what it is. Again, not the fault of the applicant, but I think we can't determine whether somebody didn't see it during the time that it was down.
Right, and I think what we have done in the past is to say whether or not it was your fault that the sign came down, the sign was not there.
I mean,
and
wind
so
could blow it away and things like that, but you did what you were supposed to do when you posted it.
So the idea is that if there's an issue with vandalism, maybe that you just need to check it to make sure that it's still there. But
Brothers.
We should postpone it, plus the variance issue.
Yeah, and we're a little unclear on the variant. I know we've had cases in the past where we've dealt with uncontested cases where we've dealt with the issue of what the sign is required to state. Not recalling at the moment how we resolved that particular issue. Board, what is your feeling?
I think we should postpone it because the sign was up the full term, and also the issue of the variance wasn't mentioned.
Let me ask Mr. Castagnola.
Okay. 2 points of clarification. So one, the sign was posted according to the posting instructions, and it explicitly says that we're seeking to build a multifamily dwelling consisting of 10 units, which that is the request that goes above and beyond what is allowed by right on that space. And then all the so if that would then lead to all the document, one can look up the BMZA application, which includes all the plans and other documents. And so I think we followed the posting instructions and it listed out what was on the application. And then regarding the signage and vandalism, I'm curious, what if there's perpetual vandalism issues?
Yeah, there could be that. And at some point you think, well, I do all I can. Was there a different way that it was secured the second time it was put up?
No, same. I mean, we do this a lot, right? And we use the same sign person all the time. He's reliable. We've had issues in the past. He goes and rehangs. This one was rehung. It's up now. I've got no reason to believe that there is sort of any dishonesty in our sign posting process.
Was it freestanding?
Oh,
Gotcha.
it's in here to the.
I'm curious. What does the rule say? Does it say 21 consecutive days?
Yeah, does it
it says at least 21 consecutive days prior to the date of the hearing.
You can't post it on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then take it down
Right.
for the weekend, and then put it back up, and it restarts the clock.
Right.
And it's uncontested that this sign was down for at least a day.
Yeah, and again, this doesn't, take into account the issue of somebody, vandalizing the sign. I think that the issue to me still becomes, is there an opportunity for someone to not have seen it because it's down for a period of time?
Particularly on a Sunday.
Without some better guidance, I don't know that there's any other rule that we follow other than the requirement that it be posted for 21 consecutive days prior to the hearing.
I'd hate for us to make a decision and it be clouded by us, but perhaps not getting this issue right about this.
A postponement can't hurt.
A postponement can only help,
Yeah.
you know?
It just makes it more clear.
And so the sign has been up now since the 8th.
And it's, and it was
So 3
there
days.
on Saturday, so it sounds like it was down on Sunday.
Okay.
So then it's only been up since
Monday.
yesterday.
Well, it's
No, the 8th.
Sunday.
The photos were shipped in on the 8th of the new sign.
I don't
Oh,
think that's right.
but I thought it was down on Sunday, the 9th.
Yeah, so it must have been torn down on Saturday after.
I was there around 8 a.m.
So that means if it's
Saturday morning.
up, if we assume it's up again right now, it's only been up for 2 days.
It would have been up Sunday, Monday.
Okay, gotcha, from the 9th then.
Yeah.
Wait.
Oh,
She said it was down on Sunday, and you guys had
said
it put
down
back
Sunday.
up
Yeah,
on
Sunday
Sunday
morning.
night?
Sunday
I'm
morning.
confused as to when the sign was up and down.
I guess I guess I have a concern though if just about like repeated vandalism.
well, has anything happened to this location before? I mean, we're experiencing perhaps an instance of vandalism in connection with the posting here.
Yeah.
Have you had, I mean, okay, we go forward and we post it another 2 days till we get to 21 days. Day 20, somebody rips it down again. What do we do?
Right.
Can we take special note for this case, because there's been a history of vandalism, that if he puts it back, not you, but your sign poster puts it back up, and I know that we might not be able to reach 21 consecutive days, but is there a way that we can grant an exception that it's like 30 total days for this case or something like that because of the repeat vandalism issues?
Well, except it hasn't been repeated yet.
Yeah.
It has not.
I'm saying, no, right. I'm just saying, like, if we reschedule this hearing again for 2 meetings from now, right? And that's enough time for it to be 21 consecutive days. When we come back, we hear again that it's been torn down. Then what, I guess then what do we do? That's the question. And is that incentive, much like the concussion protocol, to concuss the quarterback on purpose so that he can no longer play in the game, so the hearing can't happen?
So I guess what I would say is that the BMCA rules say at least 21 consecutive days. However, I mean, what this really is about is making sure people know when the hearing is and what it's about.
The notice
So
requirement more than anything else.
I think it could be, if it's postponed and if, someone checks again and it's been ripped down, but it's replaced within a reasonable time, I think that the board could consider that within the spirit of the rule and not just have to keep postponing it just because someone's ripping it down, which we don't know will happen. It could happen or not, but there isn't any wiggle room in the rules, but I think that the board can consider everyone to be properly notified as long as the applicant is, checking somewhat regularly to make sure it's still up.
You had a question?
But that's really for you all to
I
decide
make
for
a
sure.
motion that we postpone this hearing.
This young woman has a question also, real quick.
I just have a question about, are there requirements of what type of sign? Because what I'm hearing is that there may be some thought that there's a vandalism or ongoing is there a rule about what type of sign a person is supposed to post? So if this paper sign is not working, do they do a billboard on top of their property? I mean, I'm coming up with ideas, and I don't think I really should be coming up with ideas, but I'm thinking, are there rules regarding other things that can make them compliant?
It could be posted maybe a little bit higher off the ground. There are rules about it has to be at least 4 feet wide, 3 feet high, on a single sheet of white paper, printed in black font, posted on the front of the property, maintained in good condition, that kind of thing. So those are kind of the the minimum requirements, and
I mean, the few dozen of these that we've done this year, we've had 2 instances of vandalism.
Yeah,
This
and
is
I don't think
one.
it's widespread or rampant, and we don't usually have this situation, but it does occur. But again, the rule is what it is, and we can't know as we sit here whether or not somebody didn't see it because it wasn't up on a given day within those 21 days. So unfortunately, Mr. Casanova, I think we're inclined to
I agree.
find that posting under the strict letter of the rule has been met through no fault of yours, but I think it would be safer for us to postpone the matter to come back with your proof of posting.
Let me ask one more clarifying question. We've been up here with requests for variances of variety, and sometimes planning will come up with something that maybe was not identified, 2 feet of setback or otherwise, or some other nuance
Yes.
in the code. My experience has been that every one of those details is not always posted on the sign, and I just want to make sure that when we repost that we are in 100% compliance as to avoid any potential future delay.
so the code doesn't require that you have every variance listed. The rules, I'll say, it requires that you have a description of your request on appeal to the board. So I would say that just because, one of us finds a variance that you didn't know about or something before, doesn't mean that if it wasn't listed on the sign that means you have to postpone. But I would just, maybe if we're gonna, because the issue was, or one of the issues was that there wasn't a mention of variances on the sign, on the reposted sign, let's clarify the language for that sign about the variances so that everyone is clear on that. So maybe after this hearing, Roxana and I can reach out to you to double check and make sure that the sign reflects what the application is asking for.
Yep. Okay, great. Thank you.
So again, formally, we will postpone case number 2022-252, and you guys come back when you're able to.
I have one other question. Given this 21-day consecutive day reference, I am curious what the earliest likely rescheduling is that we could achieve.
So the earliest would be November 1st, which happens to be 3 weeks from today. We're every 2 weeks, but because of Election Day, we're having hearings on the 1st instead of the 8th. So the 1st of November.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Calling case number 2022-293, 1810 McCullough Street. Bashir Hijazi.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Do we have anyone here in opposition? Somebody sign in?
I don't believe so.
Oh, wait a minute. What is it?
I think there's just written opposition.
Okay.
And planning department opposition.
All right. Sir, this is a request to use the premises as a multifamily dwelling consisting of 6 dwelling units, correct?
Correct.
All right, I'll hear from staff and planning.
Standing.
Standing and
I like
Plath.
that. I like that.
Okay, so this is, as you said, a request to use the property as a multifamily dwelling with 6 dwelling units. There's community opposition to this request, mostly related to parking concerns in the neighborhood. However, and this is kind of in the same category of cases that we've had coming before the board, this is a request for multifamily, which is a permitted use in the R8 zoning district. The number of units requested matches the last legal use of the property. So the last legal use of the property was for 6 units, which you should be able to see in the zoning cards. The property has been vacant for many years, seems to be in pretty poor condition. So I'll leave it there, but I'll let Martin speak next.
Thank you. Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that the board actually did approve this property in 2009 for 7 efficiency units, which is a type of 7 efficiency units, which is a type of dwelling unit no longer recognized in the zoning code. That calculation would have therefore required 500 square feet per efficiency unit versus 750 square feet of lot area per dwelling unit. So there was a shift that happened there. But nobody acted on that, so that approval lapsed. The issue before the planning department basically is that the proposed amount of variance needed for approval of 6 dwelling units is a 36% variance, which the department considers rather excessive. However, the structure is very large. It has over 4,000 square feet of gross floor area, and the department believes it could be appropriately adapted for use as 5 dwelling units, which would require an 18%, 1/8, lot area variance. The property does have the ability to provide 2 off-street parking spaces in the rear. However, the department also notes that if the property was previously authorized for use as 6 dwelling units, there may not be a requirement under the current code to provide any parking spaces in the rear of the property. The department also notes that it would be important for the property operated as a multifamily dwelling to comply with the sanitation code. The department is recommending disapproval of the application to use the property as a multifamily dwelling containing 6 dwelling units because the amount and proportion of lot area variance needed for approval is excessive in relation to the amount required by the zoning code. The department would have no objection to approval of use of the property as a multifamily dwelling containing 5 dwelling units. Should the board determine that the application is approvable for either 5 or 6 units, the department recommends that approval of the application be subject to the condition that the use of the property complies with the terms and conditions of the Baltimore City Code Article 23, which is the sanitation code. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. Mr. Jazzy, are you agreeable to compliance with Article 23 of the sanitation code?
Yes, sir.
Is the property divided into, how many units are in the property now?
It was 6 units, but the property was completely abandoned. So now we basically reestablished the whole 6 unit exactly, and we made it trying to make it as a single bedroom apartment.
Okay. Could you make it 5?
Everything's possible. That's what we're trying to, take advantage of.
Because I'm trying to figure out, if I'm walking into this building, what am I going to see? Is it gutted, or is it?
It's completely gutted.
Okay, so you could make it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
No, it's absolutely. So basically, it was the building was completely abandoned, and it was as Mr. French said, it was approved before on 7 single efficiencies, which is we took the same model, but we made it 6 units because they're trying to make the basement as an efficiency. So we took it as a 6, exactly 6 apartments, as it used to be before the efficiencies to make it 7 apartments.
Are you intending to have the 6 dwelling units roughly the same size?
The first unit, the front one, it will be smaller. But it's basically duplicate in all the 3-level duplicates for the front first and the back, and the front and the back, and the front and the back.
Okay. Can you repeat the issue with regard to what the letter of opposition from the community referenced?
Right here. We have a letter from former state senator Verna Jones Rodwell, and also from Rick Pearson, who's director of real estate for Druid Heights Community Development. Both mention, do you own other properties in this neighborhood?
Yes, I do mostly in the block.
Both mention the rundown condition of existing multifamily units. Both mention issues related to parking, and both mention the fact that this gentleman did not meet with the neighborhood association, which I guess is Druid Heights.
We try to meet them. We were very active in the communities, and everybody knows me in the whole community. So,
I'm just reading what they wrote.
Unfortunately, so with the corona scenario, nobody's. But
So it was parking, the fact that existing units are not properly maintained, and the fact that no meeting with the community association was requested or had.
I'm a little confused as to whether or not parking variance is required or not.
There is no parking variance being required because the way that it's been explained to me is that The 1971 zoning code is the first time that off-street parking requirements were put into effect. So any property that existed before 1971 with a certain number of units was, for lack of a better term, grandfathered in with that number of units because the parking requirements didn't exist before then. So in this case, we had 6 dwelling units at this property before 1971. So if he intends to keep using it for 6 units, he doesn't need to add any parking because those units already existed.
Okay.
Who told you that?
Martin.
Martin, just Martin?
Yes.
Who got it from reliable sources, which I won't name at this moment. Thank you.
And that's why we reduced it from 7 to 6, just to be on the same exactly.
Okay. And planning's concern is with regard to the percentage of the variance. It's a large building.
Yeah, it's, to a certain extent, it's a density issue. It's a question of how many families should be on one particular property at this location. And the department just believes that 6 is too much, 5 is okay. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
Any questions of this gentleman from the board?
Would you be willing to accept the 5 units as opposed to 6?
That's the option. That's the option. Love to take a 7. I'm just, But at the end of the day, it's your we appreciate all your help. Because the reason is we made it 1 bedroom to eliminate people. How many people come to the and the building is very spacious, as Mr. French said.
4,000 square
It's almost double buildings together.
Okay.
I'll keep this to your generosity.
Parking. I'm just reviewing this letter very quickly from the community.
No problem.
Limited parking. Invested. Okay. Yeah, the tenor of the opposition obviously centers mostly on parking, which is not required to secure. Okay. Anything else you'd like to add, sir? Okay.
Appreciate everything.
All right. Very well. Then that'll be the case, and we'll deliberate.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Okay. I guess the question is whether we can grant him 5 or 6. It is a large building. It's 4,000 square feet.
What is Martin's?
Martin says it's 6 is too many. 5 is good.
I tend to go with the planning recommendation. Of course, I usually do.
And you keep saying it's an option. It's an option.
I mean, if he's okay with 5, I'm okay with 5.
Yeah.
Lulu?
What do you think?
I'm okay with 5. This is a variance, correct?
So what?
This is a variance, correct?
It's a lot area variance.
It's a lot. He ever give us a reason why it has to be 6 over 5, not any other number?
We didn't offer anything. I mean, just to take it back to a number that it used to be prior to the 7 efficiencies.
I think the reason that he said was that
How large
it wouldn't require the off-street parking variance if he kept it at 6.
Right, because it was 7 before.
Well, there's no.
Is your district planner involved in this?
The memo that I've been reading from was approved by our community planner. Yes, as well as by the director, of course.
I go with 5. I mean, I know how the planning department works, and it works.
There's a reason for that.
Yeah.
I'm inclined to grant him 5.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
On the condition that he complies with Article 23.
Sanitation code.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Martin.
Calling case number.
Lost.
What am I on now?
304?
Yeah.
Twins Falls Parkway?
304. 2022-304, 3228 Gwynns Falls Parkway. Kirk Good, come on up, sir. Anybody here in opposition?
Good
on?
evening.
How you doing?
Afternoon, sir. 3228 Gwynns Falls. No. All right. Sir, this is a request to use the premises as a multifamily dwelling consisting of 3 dwelling units. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'll hear from staff and planning.
Okay, so the issue here is, and this is something that the board comes across pretty frequently, is that the last legal use of this property is as a single-family dwelling, which you can see in the permit history of this property. I believe this is an R6, is that right, Mr. French? Well, yeah, it's an R6 zoning district. The property was pretty clearly, just from looking at the outside of it, used for at least 2 dwelling units in the past. There are 2 front doors. However, under the board's interpretation of the code, the board doesn't have the authority to grant a conversion from a single-family dwelling to a multifamily dwelling with 2 dwelling units.
But he could get approval from city council or not?
No, because it's R6, so only in R7 and R8 can you get city council.
Planning Department reviewed this application, essentially reached the same conclusions as BMZA staff, which is the property being in an R6 zoning district has the last officially recorded use as a single-family dwelling. The R6 zoning district is not a district in which residential conversions from single-family dwelling use to multifamily dwelling use are allowed by the zoning code. However, the building's facade clearly is suggestive that at one time there were 2 dwelling units in the building. The department is recommending a technical disapproval because of the zoning code requirement, because conversions of a single-family dwelling to a multifamily dwelling are not authorized in the R6 zoning district, where this property is located, unless the applicant provides the board information showing that multifamily dwelling use of this property was at one time lawfully established and has not been discontinued. Should the board determine that multifamily dwelling use of this property could be continuing, the department would have no objection to approval of 2 dwelling units, but would recommend disapproval of 3 dwelling units because the amount and proportion of lot area variance needed for approval of 3 dwelling units is excessive in relation to the standards contained in the code. And with regard to that specifically, the variance required for 3 dwelling units would be 36%, which the department considers excessive. Thank you.
Okay. So good. We have a situation here where, given where this property is located,
Right.
because our information is the last legal and authorized use is a single family, you can imagine in Baltimore City,
Yeah.
people tend to sometimes tend to convert single family to multifamily, but not legally. They do it outside of the regulations of
Yeah.
the zoning code,
Get it.
and apparently that may have happened here.
So the only
Unless
thing
you have some information that we're missing that demonstrates that it was lawfully converted to a multifamily at some point.
So from after we did the demo of the interior, we can clearly see that it's 2 units. One goes upstairs and the other one is on the first floor. We're okay if the board will allow us to do the 2. Because it's a single-family home, but it has 2 front doors.
So when you walk into those 2 front doors, does it?
One goes up and the other one goes to the first.
Once you're in one door, there's no access.
No access to the other.
Inside to the other property.
Correct.
The issue of whether it was legal, right?
Yeah, it's still got to be, well,
So I just wanted to jump in really quick. So we do not have a land use card for this property. For some properties, we just don't have one for whatever reason. Maybe it got lost or something. So we don't know for sure that it wasn't legally converted to be two dwelling units. We don't really know. So maybe the board could postpone and see if there's some kind of something that they could come up with.
No more postponing.
It's just that the board, with what we have in front of us, the board cannot grant 2 units or 3 units.
and what Mr. French was saying and what Ms. Witt is now saying is that we can consider evidence that you present to us of the lawful use of the property as two dwelling units.
Yeah,
If you don't mind me asking, what would
Your
be-
name, ma'am?
I'm so sorry, Veronica Good.
Okay, Ms. Good.
and I'm Christopher Jones.
What would be considered
Good
sufficient
evidence?
evidence?
Sufficient evidence.
Maybe some
We could send you a
BG&E,
picture.
BG&E records,
BG
evidence of
Are there,
meters.
for example, are there multiple meters?
So-
2 meters in the property? In the
This property has been
Abandoned
vacant.
for
Yeah, it
quite
was
some
vacant
time.
for well over 10 years.
Yeah, there's no meters.
There's nothing. It was literally
Sure.
nothing. It was a shell of a house. So unfortunately,
Well, given where we are on the record.
And from, you know, from what I can see, I'm a contractor, by the way, Jones Quality Construction, and taking into consideration the way the facade of the building is, the front facade is brick, and I didn't see anything altered. Looked like it was altered a few years later, or, you know, everything looked like it was originally structurally
I'll tell you what.
constructed that way.
Well, where we are today is, I don't believe we're in a position to grant you the relief you need, even for 2. We can postpone the matter, and you can come back and bring photos.
the letter that we got from one of the local neighbors, Linda Bates,
And actually, she's the board committee
Yes.
of the town.
she
the
did let us
neighborhood.
know, myself and my husband went and met with her.
Where you have that letter?
I'm trying to get it right here. And she did let us know that they were, those set of row homes are duplexes. They
Mhm.
were built as duplexes. And she is okay with us continuing as a duplex. She did not consider a triplex. There you go. Give me 1 second.
Duplex meaning 2 apartments.
Say that again.
The duplex meaning 2 apartments.
Yeah, 2 apartments. Mhm.
Give me 1 second.
The letter from the lady.
From Linda Bates.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for
Oh,
right
okay.
here. I'm so sorry.
I just saw you had it.
I have some stuff here. She sent me a letter.
Kirk said that she had a letter, she gave him a letter, approval letter, that she
Yeah, I
was
think
okay
this
with
is-
it
Mhm.
in an email.
I think this is it. It says Linda, good day, Miss Bates. Yeah, you can send it.
With the fact that some of the
Apartments on the end, and single-family attached in the middle.
Okay.
It's kind of an
The one
experimental
where she's
period of
saying
time in
that
the
she's
mid-20s when these got built,
Yes, I'm looking.
and builders weren't quite sure
I saw it.
what to build it would sell.
We don't have a
To give them the 2.
Yeah, but yeah,
That's okay. So if everyone could just talk one at a time and into the microphone, because I think the record is getting a little bit muddled. So I don't know if the email from Linda Batts is in your file. I have a copy of it and I can pass it down. But
Okay, thank you so much.
she says, so she's the community association president, but it looks like this email is just from her as a person. She says, as a legacy resident whose family has lived at 3212 Gwynns Falls for 70 plus years, I am pleased that this vacant and blighted property will be restored. Having spoken personally to the owners regarding the request to redevelop 3228 as a 3-dwelling unit, I conveyed my concerns as well as that of my neighbors regarding the property's historic use as a duplex, the typology of similarly situated duplex properties within the block, and the impact on density. The applicant has stated that he will modify his request from a 3-dwelling unit to a 2-dwelling unit. Such is consistent with our community's recent support of 3200 Gwynns Falls to be rehabbed as a duplex, which the board heard, I think, within the past 6 months sometime. Accordingly, I support the use of the subject property as a duplex and thank the applicants for their investment in our block and welcome them to the neighborhood. So I'll pass this down if anyone wants
Is
to take a look.
3200 like a mirror unit just on the other side? So can we consider that as evidence that this is a,
Built the same way.
yeah, if it's like the mirror unit on the other
Correct.
side of it?
Yeah, and units, yeah.
Thank you, mirror end unit, that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, it looks like 3200 is on the other end
Yeah.
of this
They're
row.
all the same way.
And the ones in the middle, Martin, are the ones you said are single family, correct?
Yep.
Huh.
It's clearly larger.
Well,
There you go.
Rabbit being pulled out of the hat.
I know, right? Yes.
So, it seems clear that we all believe that has been used as a multifamily in the past. The problem seems that we don't have any record or any evidence of a legal use or that was illegal. We have anecdotal evidence, but nothing that that was a legal
But
use.
we don't have a land use card, which means we don't have evidence of it being a single family either. Is that what?
And I'm taking into consideration that letter that just stated the historical duplex.
Yeah.
Should they've been there for 70 years?
Yes.
Yes.
And the only thing that's missing is missing because the city doesn't have it. That's no fault of the owner, property owner, correct?
I mean, I think,
I think the mirror end unit does it for me.
yeah, I think that's sufficient.
Yeah.
Together with somebody relating it back.
Also,
multiple
together with two
decades.
front doors and
Right.
two.
Right.
Of them all.
You have a neighbor.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
inclined to grant that.
Yeah.
All right.
We kind of did our deliberation.
Yeah, we did. Oh, they're here.
Yeah, we're here.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
We're going to go deliberate now.
Okay.
Oh,
Appreciate
I'm
it.
satisfied for two,
Appreciate it.
based on the evidence presented.
I am as well. The mirror end unit, and the presence of two doors and everything like that. But the mirror end unit is something I say akin to 2 meters in the house, meaning that it has been used for 2 units in the past and without a land use card from the city. Then I think that this is evidence that supports its use as 2 units.
I'm convinced.
Me too.
I'm a yes for two.
I would approve
I'm a yes
2
for 2.
units.
That's for two.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Go
you.
Thank
forth
you.
and Bill.
Yes.
Thank you all. Go Sabrina.
Yes.
Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you, folks.
You too.
Thank you so much.
Okay, calling the case of 2022-329, 2120 through 2122 North Charles Street. Mr. Hurdle?
James, you can pass this letter back.
I'm sorry, thank you.
It's from the previous.
Good afternoon, Mr. Hurdle. This is a request to use the premises as a tavern with live entertainment, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. We swear the parties, please.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but yes.
I'll hear from staff and planning.
Okay. So there's a conditional use and a variance, I believe, as well. The conditional use would be entertainment live accessory to a tavern use, and the off-street parking variance would be 6 spaces required, 0 proposed, so 6-space variance requested. Your memo says that there's community opposition in the file, which is not quite accurate. There's a letter from the Charles North Community Association stating that they were not really able to get in touch with the applicant and that they requested that all exterior music and entertainment be prohibited at this location. So it's not exactly an opposition, it's just a request for that condition to be
I don't
added.
see the letter. What was the condition again?
The condition is that all exterior music and entertainment be prohibited at this location. So no live entertainment on the outside of the premises. And I can pass this down to you, Bill, if you want to look at it.
Is that in the application?
I'm not sure what's in that. Mr. Hurdle can explain about what is in
Absolutely.
the application. But I think it's Martin's turn first.
I'll defer.
Okay.
For Mark.
Thank you, sir. Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that this property is in the Charles North Revitalization Area, Urban Renewal Plan area. And that particular urban renewal plan includes a prohibition on taverns with a fire-rated capacity of over 250 people. The application that is before you today includes a proposal for 400 persons as the authorized occupant load of the premises. Therefore, it would be necessary, if the board was to approve this use, to limit the number of people who may attend live entertainment events using this property. The application also does not include detailed statements relating to security. And given the large number of patrons who could be present for these live entertainment events, the application should include details about security plans, the number of personnel who would be present during events, and their deployment, and any plans for coordinating security with external security services near to closing time. We did not check to see if this property is in the Charles Village Benefits District, Community Benefits District, but if it is, they do have a security service that should be coordinated with. The department is recommending that approval of this application be given only if the applicant provides approvable plans for security and off-street parking. The department further recommends that approval of the application, if granted, be subject to these conditions, in addition to any conditions the board may establish. The capacity of the tavern shall be limited at all times to 250 persons, or the number of persons determined by the fire marshal's rating of capacity of the premises, whichever is less. A copy of the use and occupancy permit for the premises must be kept on premises and available for inspection by representatives of Baltimore City at all times. A copy of the written approval by the board of the live entertainment provided on premises, including details of any restrictions or limitations on the live entertainment provided, must be kept on the premises and available for inspection by representatives of Baltimore City at all times. And a copy of all other permits and licenses required pursuant to the written approval of the board must be kept on the premises and available for inspection by representatives of Baltimore City at all times. Thank you.
Martin, I don't have your report in my information. Was it 200 or 250 limit?
250 is the maximum amount established by the urban renewal plan.
Urban renewal plan.
250, 250.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to take a look at it. Thank you.
You good, Mark? I mean, Mr. French. Mr. Hurdle?
Abraham Hurdle on behalf of 2120 North Charles LLC. The applicant is 2120 Charles Operating LLC. The applicant here has been before the liquor board already. This is an unusual circumstance. There are carve-out BD7s in that area where they're being issued new BD7s, which are not issued anywhere else in the city. And that allows these licenses to, or these applicants to go before the liquor board before zoning, as opposed to what is the typical requirement the other way around. They have been before the liquor board. Liquor board has approved this application. With regards to the concern that I guess was voiced by Charles North regarding outdoor entertainment, one of the concerns with this property is that it effectively occupies the entire lot from sidewalk to sidewalk, next building over. So there's no place to like put a band
Is this it?
outside. That is.
Okay.
So,
the answer is no.
yeah, and I'm not sure there's ever been necessarily an intent.
There's still going to be an issue. Okay, we'll hear from you, sir.
Sure, and I wasn't, yeah, I'm sure we'll happily address whatever issues that
Whether
come
there
up.
could be an issue, there's no intent by this applicant to.
No, there's never been a discussion about putting a band on the roof or on the sidewalk or anything of that nature. There's a drawing, and I think you guys have the drawings. The space is split up significantly. There's kind of a front section, which will be a continuously operating tavern, and a back section where there may be some offices in the end, but that's where live entertainment will take place. The way it's set up allows us to take a good utilization of the space all the time while offering live events sometimes, as opposed to just having a concert hall type of thing that sits empty all the time.
Where would the live entertainment be?
In the back here.
I get it.
The front's got a lower ceiling as well. The back has a high ceiling. It's not a warehouse in the back, but it has more of a warehouse type of feel. That's how we would describe it. We are requesting the variance for the parking. There is no parking on premises, is my understanding. Is that correct?
No, there's not.
There is no parking. I just wanted to verify. We did have some space, I think, for dumpsters, but that's pretty much the extent, again, from the lot usage in this facility. We are working with local communities to acquire more off-street parking. I think we've been in discussion with the people at the Safeway to do parking in the evenings. They've been reluctant in the past, but given that this would most likely have, the live entertainment would be kind of opposite hours for customers, it's something that we're working on to make it happen. There's also significant commercial, I think there's a large body shop up on the one street, and there's a Honda dealer that's converted into something else. So there's parking in the area. We're working with those groups to, I guess, kind of get a lease if we can. We are trying to work with the Charles Village group.
Mr. Hurdle?
What's your name, please? Michael Colligan. Okay, thank you. How do you spell your last name? Colligan. Thank you.
We've been working with the Charles Village group as well as with the Charles Benefits group with regard to the security, and we're happy to submit a security plan to the board going forward. Mr. Kelly Cross, who's one of the members of the community association in the area, is here to speak as well. And I think the councilman was here earlier to speak in support of this matter as well, but he had to,
The 2 o'clock hearing elsewhere.
had other busy stuff to go on. I guess this
Who was
wasn't
that
most
here?
important. Councilman Stokes?
Okay.
Go figure, huh?
You should have told us.
He said hi to me. I'm not sure if he said hi to you guys.
Not at all.
And we did look into the rule that Mr. French is referencing in regards to the 250 people. And I'm always very reluctant to disagree with Mr. French because more often than not, he's absolutely correct and I'm not. But my reading is that taverns without live entertainment are prohibited with over 250 people. There's nothing specific as far as I can tell with regards to with live entertainment being over 250
What was your
people.
understanding again?
I pulled it up, and I think that this is this, Mr. French, is this the urban renewal plan from 1982? So we brought it up in the hallway in a bit of a mild panic, because this was a little unusual for us. It caught us off guard. And it references a B2 community business, which community business is now, I guess, C1, I think. And the line in question at the bottom of the, I guess, the section is the taverns not including live entertainment or dancing with a fire rated capacity of over 250. And those are the prohibited uses. So for us, with the live entertainment, I think it allows us to have a larger capacity. Of course, we will restrict it to any capacity that the fire department sets. If they come in and say it's 200, it's certainly going to put us in a difficult spot. But we don't want to be stuck with the 250 recommendation from the 40-year-old PUD when I don't think that's what it indicates.
Mr. French, what's the wording in the urban renewal plan?
I did not bring that plan with me. I would need to go back and take a look. I would just find it odd that a plan would limit taverns without live entertainment and not establish a limit for taverns with live entertainment. But that's all. That's something that needs to be investigated further.
Well, I do have it here. I can read it.
Tell us your name.
Kelly Cross.
CROSS.
CROSS, President of the Old Goucher Community Association. And just echoing off of what Mr. Hurdle said, there were 2 issues as far as this urban renewal plan came up, as far as I could see. One is that this restriction, 250 people, only applies to B2 zones in the 1982 code, this 1982 urban renewal plan, and we're in a C1 zone. So there was B1 under the previous code, which was the equivalent of C1. Today, B2 equivalent of C2.
Can you move closer to the microphone?
Oh, sure. So my first contention would be that does not apply in any event because this is in a C1 zone, which is not a B2 zone from 1982. And then secondarily, of course, that we are seeking live entertainment, which would exempt it from this prohibition, at least the way this is written in this 1982 urban renewal plan.
Okay. We
Mr. French,
anticipated
any response to that?
The Department of Planning is not in the position of defending urban renewal plans.
How about the issue of B1 and C1 carryover?
Our interpretation of these urban renewal plans, because nearly all of them have not been updated since 2017 to align the uses that they refer to, whether allowed or prohibited or whatever, to the current zoning code's terms, is that it's the use that is described in the urban renewal plan that we focus on, not the district that it may have been in at the time that that urban renewal plan was created.
Just want to sure.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Earl.
So our proposal here is, without any question, we don't want to put patrons in danger. Full stop. If fire capacity comes in and puts a certain limitation on, we're absolutely going to abide by that limitation, whatever it is, if it's lower than where we want it to be. But we don't want this PUD restriction, which, again, we reviewed it a bunch of times in the hallway. I had to take a couple looks at it. And I don't want to put Mr. French on the spot, which is exactly what we're doing. It's not very fair.
Sure, I'm doing
With regards to the fact that it says without live entertainment, because my interpretation as a lawyer, as it suits me well, in this situation, is that because there isn't a restriction, there isn't a restriction. It's a 40-year-old PUD in an area that I'm not sure, it's tough to reference these things 40 years out.
It's an urban renewal plan.
Urban renewal plan, correct, sorry. As opposed to a, planned renewal, or planned plan.
All right. And again, there's no, and you would agree to a condition that there be no live entertainment outside?
Yeah, there's no issue with live entertainment outside, none at all.
What type of entertainment's planned?
I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Colligan and Mr. Cross, who's helping with the, well, Mr. Cross, you're helping with the community development as a whole in the area.
That's correct.
And Mr. Colligan, you're a member of the building and as well as the operating entity, is that correct?
Correct, yes. So I'm happy to step up. And thank you again for your time today. If you're familiar with our part of the city, Old Goucher, we've been doing a lot to turn it into a sort of a center for commerce, for entertainment, and particularly focusing on entrepreneurs and entertainment venues accommodating people of color, owned by people of color. And it's something that we're very excited about and passionate about. A few of the places that we have already gotten off the ground have been very successful in the 23rd Street corridor, one of which is Dutch Courage, which is owned by Mr. Colligan. The building itself is. Above that, we've got coming in Bradford Young, who is the first African-American to be nominated for an Oscar for cinematography. He's bringing his lens design studio from London to Baltimore. He will be above Dutch Courage. The next block over, we have Fadenzunnen, which is a beer garden, sake bar, coffee shop, sort of all combined into one space, one property there. Another block down, we've got Church Bar, we've got No Land Beyond. So been a number of places that we've been able to activate in the neighborhood to really start bringing in more vitality. And this, to me, is really a linchpin for that development in the neighborhood. To have an anchor at an intersection that has been problematic for a very long time, empty, not much going on. It's attracted crime and attracted litter, loitering. So we want to have something that's really going to be an anchor in the neighborhood. So I'll let Mike talk about the specifics, but basically this is going to be an arts and entertainment use, probably some stuff around vinyl records, a vinyl record bar of the sort, some DJs in the back, perhaps some pressing facilities to actually create vinyl records and create some jobs around light manufacturing. That may not be in the plan, but that's still sort of in discussion. But really something that becomes a magnet for more good energy in the neighborhood. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mike Colligan. I'm representing the ownership entity, and thank you, Kelly, and thank you, Abe. It's been a thrill to be a part of some of these projects and be a part of the vision that's happening up there. And I do see this as I think we all see it as Kelly put it, a linchpin in what is happening in the neighborhood. We come from a place of equity, even in the development mindset. Equity before debt, and talent first, and really allowing people, the talented people who have come to the neighborhood, to speak to what they want to do in the neighborhood, and it's amazing the talent that we've been able to attract through this, this mentality of supporting the talent. The guys at Dutch Courage just won Best Bar, and we're totally thrilled to have that. But we allowed them, to achieve that vision, and that's what we plan to do here. The entertainment, there's not a ton to do up here, and this in this building, because it's 6,000 square feet on one floor. It is, I think everybody who goes in there says, this needs to be an entertainment venue up here, and so we want to continue in the spirit of responsible stewardship of these buildings, and do our part to support some of these folks. So we have the opportunity to do a vinyl listening bar, possibly combined with record pressing, and some very, very talented entrepreneurs who have shown their merits in DC and on the national stage, and there is an entertainment portion to that where we'll be able to throw events, to be able to have DJs from everywhere come in and have access to this extraordinary talent that sometimes passes Baltimore for lack of the appropriate venue to play, and so we're not looking to have We're not looking to, and of course, we have a huge interest in, as the other restaurants have shown, where there is a lot of people, a lot of foot traffic coming in, the safety that creates versus. I'm not sure what other people are picturing, but we would like to continue to be stewards of all the other places. We're looking at this as a holistic development versus something that's a one-off project, and so. I don't know if that answers any questions. We want to have
Questions I didn't even ask.
I can go on.
Do you own this building?
I'm part of the ownership entity, yes.
Mike touched on Mr. Colligan touched on a couple of things in the bars in the area and the different other venues in the area. I don't like to use the word curated because it seems so cliche. Those bars, No Land Beyond, Dutch Courage, Fad and Sodden, these are all bars. I think Wolf Culture is going to be opening at some point soon, which is very exciting. These were all buildings and spaces that had significant interest in terms of tenancy. And instead of choosing whoever was the highest paying person or perhaps, the most name recognition, the owners and the people in the community sought out to get people who had, ties to Baltimore or had just interesting stories that they could provide. And all of these locations are just incredibly diverse and interesting and bring so much to the neighborhood. Fad and Sodden is an award-winning location. Dutch Courage is an award-winning location. This is not going to be a place that's going to have one of these, promoter situations that we constantly hear about having problems with. This is going to be where the tenant that ends up fully operating, which is what they're going to be doing, is going to be absolutely on top of their game. They're going to be bringing in the type of acts that are going to bring the good attention to Baltimore as opposed to the stuff you sometimes read about in the paper. So this is going to be an exciting project.
Very well. Okay. All right. We'll turn to the opposition. Joe, sir, state your name and we'll hear from you.
My name is Peter Duval. That's Duvall. I'm representing the Charles North Community Association. David Lapita is president. And a couple of things that come up. As for the urban renewal plan, it's interesting because the Community Association has completed an update of the urban renewal plan. And I believe it's either been introduced to City Council or will be in the next month. And so that's been worked on. We realize that the language is outdated. As for the 250-person rule, I believe that was intended, and I think that was part of a later update to deal with the situation at Club Choices, which was an entertainment venue. So I'd be surprised if it was not intended to apply to venues that have entertainment. But then again, I haven't read it recently, and I can't tell you for sure. As for the exterior entertainment issue, we've had several problems nearby on St. Paul Street with one operator who has speakers outside that blast music all the time. And that's been in front of the liquor board. I don't think it's come to BMCA. Another place that's...
What's that location?
That's at 25th and St. Paul, called Terra Cafe. And another place...
We know about that.
Yeah. Another place, 101 East 21st Street, which was the Hells Angels Club, but now it's operated separately. And they've been... actually, it's not in Charles North, but the neighbors who complained are in Charles North because they're right next door across the alley. And, they've had outside entertainment. And so we just wanted to nip it in the bud. No speakers outside, no nothing. Just, whatever goes on stays inside.
Is that the intent here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Because we have had problems.
Understood. And they recognize that as well. And
these are gentlemen who live in the neighborhood, not just in terms of being investors in the neighborhood. They live in the neighborhood. I drive through the neighborhood to go to the grocery store all the time, so I'm also pretty familiar.
And I apologize for cutting you off. I just wanted to be sure we all understood that There was no intent to cross
I
that
live in the
bridge.
neighborhood too, so, you know. I'm a member of the Charles North Board because I have an office in the neighborhood, though. I actually live in Old Goucher / Barclay. The other issue is that we tried to find out about the operation of this place, and we couldn't get anything. No one wanted to come and present to us. We were told there's no operator, so we couldn't get any details about what was going to happen there. There is kind of a clash because it's overlapping community associations. I don't know whether they felt like they shouldn't have to talk to us or what, but anyway, the Charles North Community Association is active in the area. We are revising our urban renewal plan as we speak, or that's actually done. And there is a concern, and we would like to be consulted whenever changes happen. So I think that is an issue here. And we would love to hear from an operator once there is one. But we're being expected to okay the operations of a building without an operator on board, as far as I know. Or at least that's what we were told.
Well, and that happens at times because you get the use and you get the approval for that, and then you can find an operator who can fit within those parameters, which, you know, seems like sometimes an orderly way to approach the project.
Why didn't you get in touch with these guys?
I can speak to that. If you like. Sure. There was an email that was sent out from Mr. Lapidus to someone who was no longer in our partnership, and this person did email back Mr. Lapidus and say that they could reach me directly as president of the Old Goucher Community Association. I never received any communication. And furthermore, you know, just to speak to this, I feel that we have a lot of different groups that overlap in Center City, Baltimore. So for every single project that comes through, there are potentially 5 different groups that we could go to if we wanted to get clearance for everything. In my view, this is really about where people live, where people are active. I've not seen the Charles North Community Association active in our neighborhood. I live a block away from this site. We've done a lot of work in Old Goucher, continue to do a lot of work in Old Goucher. So to my mind, this is really a function of whether this board feels confidence in what we have already done in the neighborhood and where we're planning to go. Thank you.
And not only the, you know, the Charles North is the north end of Charles North is 22nd Street. You know, our community meetings are at the Motor House on North Avenue. So, you know, they're Old Goucher comes from the north, we come from the south. It is in the overlap area.
Okay.
Just wondering, is the gentleman's name Lapidus or Lapidus?
Lapidus. So anyway, no exterior entertainment. I think we've can at least avoid the worst case scenario if they agree to that.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Hurdle, final word with you, sir.
And I appreciate the community input. It's always nice to have more buy-in from people in the area whenever possible. I think I'd wrap up by saying I'm very excited about this location. I think they're going to do a really good job. I've worked with Mr. Colligan and Kelly for a few years now on a bunch of these locations, and I'm happy to say that all of them have had wonderful occupants, wonderful operators who don't just do a good job, but go on to be just class leading. And this isn't an area that just doesn't have any of this stuff. This isn't going to be a problem place. Our goal is to have no outdoor live entertainment, but to have indoor live entertainment, to be approved for the variance for the parking, and for our capacity to be whatever the fire department sets based on the interpretation of the urban renewal plan.
Okay.
Except for the 250-person limit made by the planning department, are you in agreement with the other recommendations?
Yeah, we're happy to submit
Copies of documents.
in terms of working on a parking plan and getting you guys a security plan, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant?
No.
None.
Thank you, folks. Appreciate the presentation.
Thank you. I'll see you guys in 5 minutes.
Question of 250 versus 4.
That's a big difference.
Well, 4 is what they've asked for in the application.
I mean, I trust the fire department more than I trust us.
Yeah.
What do we know? And like a community association that creates a PUD, I definitely trust the fire department.
Yeah, they want to.
So the fire department said 4?
No, they haven't said
They
anything.
will say, whatever it is they do say,
Okay.
we'll,
Yeah,
we'll take.
What if
Yeah,
they say
exactly, yeah.
525,000?
There's a security plan,
That security plan.
and then the posting of various documents, as
Yeah.
suggested by the planning department.
I agree with all that.
I agree with all that.
Do we need to read them all? Do you know what they are, Becky?
I can read it.
I don't have the planning department memo in front of me, but,
I do. A copy of the use and occupancy permit for the premises must be kept on the premises and available for inspection by representatives of Baltimore City at all times. A copy of the written approval by the BMZA of the live entertainment provided on the premises, including details of any restrictions or limitations of the live entertainment provided, which we're going to do. Must be kept on the premises, available for inspection for representatives of Baltimore City at all times. A copy of all other permits, licenses required pursuant to the written approval of the Board of Municipal and Zoning Appeals must be kept on the premises and available for inspection.
Can we
et
say
cetera,
something
et cetera.
about, because it's in opposite order, can we say something like including the liquor board? Like if they have to keep our decision there, is that usual? I don't know, I'm just asking.
Well, I think you have to have the,
Yeah, you have to have the posting for the liquor board.
You say what?
Correct, they need to have the sales tax license,
liquor
trader's
board
license,
requires
use
that.
permit, zoning certificate. These things are all have to be posted on the wall.
Everything he said.
Ms. Witt, I think, is very familiar as well, perhaps more so than me.
I'm a yes for all of those things. Specifically, I guess the only real change is the, not change, the specification is that the fire department will determine the capacity.
capacity, as they have in the
Which
past.
it would anyway.
Yeah. No matter what we say.
Okay.
We are.
Yeah.
I'm good.
4 yeses?
Yeah, yes.
Oh, that's right, you again.
I'm next, yes,
Yeah.
that's why, I'm not, sorry.
I was like, he does not look like the two gentlemen that were just standing here. It's a whole different gentleman.
All right, let me go ahead and call case number 2022-330, 3434 through 3462 Wilkins. Mr. Hurdle, you're the applicant. This is a request to use portion of 3446 Wilkins Avenue for live entertainment in conjunction with retail sales and art gallery. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If he intends to, well, we also have opposition? Yes. Okay, could you come to this side, ma'am, where you'll be? And then we'll get you all sworn?
Sure.
And if I may, just very briefly, I think we're actually going to be asking for a postponement in this matter.
Okay.
There was some confusion last week when people were calling me vehemently in opposition for me running any establishment in this area, which it's fair. When they talked to my client on the phone in the last couple of days, most of those people who signed a petition against it said, oh, well, we just didn't like him, so we're happy to support you. I spoke to Mr. French as well, who doesn't have a position given the community stance as well. So we would love to go out, meet with the community, come back in a couple of weeks if that's possible. We believe that we would have significant support at that time. That would be our goal. It makes it a little easier for everybody, I think.
Okay. Yeah, they're asking for a postponement. I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
I'd love to pick a date if that's possible to avoid the, yeah.
We should be able to, you said you wanted 2 weeks?
That'd be perfect.
We should be able to put you on the 25th.
Can I now check my phone, even though I was very confident about that date a moment ago? Thank you.
Yes.
Were you indicating that you're not very popular in these neighborhoods?
Is this the building?
I think they've got.
Yes, ma'am.
It's like behind.
Yeah,
across
the
from St.
plaza,
Agnes?
correct.
Across from St. Agnes? Yeah.
I like to sit with it, so it'll be on record.
Sure.
Okay.
Mhm.
Very well.
This would be the 25th?
Yes.
Perfect.
We can have this copy,
And
ma'am?
that will be back over in the planning department boardroom, so you'll have to change the
I
sign,
did see that.
the date as well as the location of the hearing. So update your sign, please.
Excellent. We can do that.
The time will be the same time, so it'll be at 1 PM on October 25th.
Location.
It's in
We have a sign guy.
417 East Fayette Street on the 8th floor, the Benton Building on the 8th floor.
me, ma'am. Could I get your name, please?
I'm sorry, Elaine Wilson.
Thank you. And your name?
Nidal Shalabi. Nidal. Last name A-L. S-H-A-L-A-B-I.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All set, thank you.
Appreciate it. Matters postponed.
Thank you.
I wish we did, ma'am. So am I at 2022-332, 1211 Dundalk Avenue? Mr. Nicodemus?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and do we have any opposition here for this?
There is written opposition. There should be in your
Okay.
file.
Very well, so this is, this matter addresses variance to bulk yard regulations to install a concrete slab in the rear premises, correct?
Correct.
2,680 square feet approximately?
I'm not 100% sure that that's an accurate count. It's really, in essence, the whole rear yard.
Okay,
That may be above and beyond what they were allowed to have.
all right.
You know, we're, at the end of the day, he's probably almost at 90% coverage of impervious.
Well, let's
grade.
get our staff reports in. We'll hear from staff and planning.
Okay, 2 variances requested here. Minimum rear yard setback, 25 feet required, 0 is proposed because it's a full rear yard, so 25-foot variance requested. And then the maximum impervious surface, 50% allowed. I have 100% proposed, but it could be 90. So either a 40 or 50% variance requested. There's community opposition in the file. There should be an email in your packet about what the community opposition is. If this seems familiar to you, the board denied an identical variance for the next door neighbor, 1213 Dundalk Avenue, earlier this year. The work has already been done, which you can see from the aerial view in your packet. So, yeah, that's all I have right now.
Done after we turned it down or before we turned it down?
So the board didn't deny the variance for this property. The board denied this same project for the neighboring property, 1213 Dundalk Avenue.
So which one's been constructed?
Both of them, actually.
Actually, it's interesting, 1213, I don't believe they poured the slab. There are areas of the rear yard that have concrete in it, but they haven't done the work there yet. 1211, which is this one, definitely did. And interesting enough, which would be kind of part of my description here, is that the neighbor at 1209 has done a whole yard concrete slab and apparently has not gotten any sort of citation or fine or didn't get permits.
Thanks for that information.
Yeah, that
kind of led up to what happened here.
that
Mr.
is
French?
sorry. That is just to add on for a second. That is also in the neighbor's letter of opposition. She notes that 1209 has already done this, did not have permits, and apparently there has been no citation for that. We're not in charge of citations. So, and then 1211, apparently, I think that's why we're here, is that someone noticed that this work had been done and called it in. So,
Why does everyone want to do it?
So I have some pictures to describe.
Hold on. Let's finish getting the report.
For the record, Planning Department has no comment on this application.
Could you repeat that? No.
Go ahead, Mr. Nicodemus.
Okay, so let me give you a little backstory. Part of the backstory, so, you know, the gentleman who owns this house, it's a group of homes. I believe they may be related. They're Latino descent. They work for a concrete company. They don't speak English very well. I was brought into this by a building inspector to see if I could help sort out and just try to help. They're really nice people. But they're, the kind of people who don't understand building codes. They don't know what the zoning board is. They don't really know when they need permits, that kind of thing.
You know these folks personally?
I'm sorry, excuse. No, I'm not offering that. I'm just explaining the
Pretty
backstory.
broad brush. I'm just cautioning you.
I understand. Well, and part of this is, as I mentioned, 1209, their neighbor seemed to have paved their whole rear yard with concrete, didn't get in any trouble, and seemed like it was, so these neighbors, not knowing much of how these operations work, just thought that they were allowed to do it. So I would like to offer a few pictures just to describe and show,
Can we
what
keep
they're doing.
these
Yes,
for the record?
please, yeah. So I guess if I'm going to discuss any sort of hardship to help the case, these people, the best I can tell you is that, he bought this house and it was just a mess back there. He said it was just a dirty, awful yard. He couldn't keep it up, and every time it rained, there would be runoff, and his basement would get flooded with mud, all these things. So that's the best I can do in terms of a hardship. I can tell you, if you look from the pictures, they really enjoy using this space. I mean, they get their neighbors in and they play soccer, they play volleyball, they have a really fun time. Like this guy is very excited about what he has here for his house and his yard now. Obviously, it's not up to code. We'll do what we can to get permits if this can get approved. But this is kind of, when I speak to this man, he's just very adamant that this is like his dream, to have a yard where he can play. He has got kids, and they live on a main street, so he wants his kids to have a place to play, ride their bikes. I don't know that playing in grass is better than concrete, but it works for them. And like he said, he doesn't have a good way to upkeep his land otherwise. And if I mentioned, he works for a concrete company, so he was able to get all that handled fairly quick. Either not important, but safety for his family is very important to him. I don't understand, what the negative impact on the neighborhood is. It's his yard. As you can see, it's fenced in. They play games.
You can't see it from the front.
What can't you see?
The backyard.
Oh, yeah, probably not. That's the best picture I can give to you. I would say my defense here is less of one of proving hardships as it is of just finding it in your hearts to let this gentleman live out his dream in his yard. That's the front of the house, I believe. Yeah, that does look like the front of the house, yeah.
Well, that's the regular driveway part of it, but not the...
No, it's got the whole thing's concrete.
Yeah, there might be a side patch that's not,
It's city-owned property there, in the front. It's a city
Right,
right-of-way.
but this is what it looked like before. This is what it looked like before he did it. So it was already a driveway, a sidewalk, and then you can see all the trees that used to be there. So you can't see the new concrete he's poured. This picture is from 2019, so it already had this driveway. It's not like it was completely grass beforehand.
Oh, I remember this.
Yeah, you remember the house next door.
They put the concrete down.
You recall?
I recall the case, yeah.
We didn't find a hardship. We just did it.
Yeah.
What do you say?
We didn't find a hardship.
Yeah, we denied it last time.
Well, so we should finish before we discuss.
Yeah, let's do that.
Again, I think my point is that I don't see who it's harming. The runoff is handled. I guess he's got it worked out so it goes somewhere that doesn't disturb a neighbor. I think it comes right down his driveway now instead of into his basement. Aside from that, I don't see what someone's rear yard has to really affect other neighbors. Maybe that's, I don't know.
In the city?
What's that?
Do you live in the
I
city?
used to for many years, yes. Yeah. And like I said, the hardship is just a matter of water management. I guess that's the best thing I could come up with for you. But, I think he has good intent with what he's doing. He's living out a dream. And, I hope that you can see that the same way.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Nicodemus? All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I don't think living out a dream is like a reason to approve this. I mean, I might like to have 10 apartments in my house in Rexmere Road, on 36th Street. It's not allowed.
Yeah, we've been through the analysis in the past. And so you got to meet the standards. And
I feel like I was helpful last time. I forgot how I came down on this.
I know exactly how I came down, which is I think he should be able to pave his whole backyard.
Yeah, I think that's
So
how
I
I
came
came
down
down.
exactly the same way as I did the last time. I agree that it does not affect the neighbors, and if he's preventing water runoff into his house and finding a place for his kids to play safely, I think that it meets the variance approval standards for those reasons. But
There's a large parking lot connecting to a funeral home, a striped parking lot like
and
2
I
doors
believe
down.
you said that last time.
2 doors down.
Yeah.
Like striped parking lot full of concrete.
Yeah.
2 doors down. I don't.
Did they have a permit for that?
well,
The funeral home, I guess.
The funeral home did. I'm just saying, like, the whole idea that not being able to pave your backyard would somehow injure the community when 2 doors down there's a striped parking lot next to a funeral home on the same block.
It's not like the neighborhood is
I don't buy
without
it.
pavement, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's a business, correct?
It is.
Well, this is a,
So I can,
required.
for question
Start with
four-
the uniqueness.
Right.
I think it's unique because it's on a main street and your kids cannot play safely on a main street. So I think the property is unique.
I disagree.
Yesterday I stopped mine from running into the street 17 times.
I'm sorry.
I think 2 is the hard one for me. 3, but I can go, I mean, for the record, for 3, the hardship is caused by the code because the code specifically says you cannot pave your backyard. So for question 4, it's definitely not based on a desire to increase the value. And question 5, I don't believe that it injures anybody else's use or enjoyment of their property. And question 6, there's no urban renewal plan or anything like that. I wonder what, though, the purpose and intent of this part of the city code. No, it wouldn't be the city code. It's the anyways. And then for 7, it's not detrimental to public health, safety, or welfare. And I don't think it's contrary to the public interest. Even though there might be community opposition, but I can't imagine how it details these people's yard being endangering public health. So I think question 2 is where mainly where we disagree, I suppose.
Yeah, so question 2, because of the particular physical surrounding shape, topographical conditions, we heard testimony that he couldn't manage his yard.
That's not a practical difficulty.
I can't manage mine either.
It doesn't sound like you
It's not a
attempted
practical
to either.
difficulty.
Yeah, right, and that's sort of the issue. On that depiction that you have there, Sabrina?
Sure.
Can you leapfrog over the back of,
You want
back of the?
wait to see what it looked like in
Right.
2019?
Right.
No, but you can see from here, you can see the trees that are here that
sure.
are not there anymore.
Right.
You can see that the backyard is full of trees.
Full of Lorax.
You
and
can see
cut it
there's
all down.
grass on the front yard.
Right.
So just a point of clarification, if we deny it, what happens? If this is already there, is it
It's arguably, he would be required to break it up.
right?
Yes.
The city but that's on the city to enforce that, correct?
Right.
It's not, we're not going out there to
No, it's
enforce
just up
it.
to
no.
city.
So they don't even know people have.
I mean, we've done the analysis previously, though we
Nothing's
may
changed.
differ.
I think last time also there was more community, there are people here to say, I don't want these people to have concrete in their backyard versus this time there's not.
Yeah,
I think the facts were like the same,
No, it's literally the same thing. It's next door.
except they didn't do it.
It's exactly the same letter that it relates to all 3 of these properties, to 1209, 1211, and 1213, so it's exactly the same facts.
I mean, if this guy had drainage issues, which seems to be the principal problem as described here,
It's
then you
impervious.
grade the property and you plant grass, like normal, like I would do.
I wouldn't. Grass is disgusting.
I think that was your last.
Anyway,
Anyway, so we have to deal with the analysis and answer those questions, and I think number 2 is a
Concrete the shit out of it.
I think that for me, it ends the sort of inquiry, because there's
And
no
for me also.
unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty, which resulted in him sort of doing this in absence of authority. So I'm a no.
I'm also a no.
I'm a no.
I'm a yes.
Exactly what happened last time.
That's crazy.
We'll leave it to the other city agencies to,
Decide if they really care whether or not somebody's backyard is full of concrete.
okay, moving on to case number 2022-335, 1724 Druid Hill Avenue. AB Associates is the appellant. Do we have any live opposition? No. And this addresses variance to bulk yard regulations to use as a multifamily dwelling consisting of 3 dwelling units. Variance required for off-street parking, correct?
True. Yes.
This gentleman testifies, we'll have him sworn.
Swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes.
State your name, please.
James Doverstein.
James.
Doverstein. D-O-B. The B is in boy. B is in boy. There's 2 B's. E-R-S-T-E-I-N.
I'll hear from staff and planning.
Okay, so from our records that we have in the zoning cards and in the permit history, this property has been used as a single-family dwelling. That's the legal use of the property. So from our perspective as BMZA staff, that this request is for a residential conversion, which the board cannot approve. I also just wanted to point out there's kind of some late-breaking opposition, which I think I only got maybe yesterday or early this morning from some community members opposed to the conversion from single-family to multifamily. Yeah.
Planning Department reviewed this application. The record which the Planning Department had access to indicated that the last authorized use was a single-family dwelling for not more than 4 persons living as a family, according to a use permit issued in 2001, and that is a permitted use in the R8 zoning district where the property is located. There was no record available to planning staff indicating an authorized change of use since that year. And as noted by BMZA staff, in the R8 zoning district, a residential conversion from single-family dwelling use to multifamily dwelling use must be authorized by an ordinance of the mayor and city council. Therefore, the department is recommending disapproval of the application because the zoning code does not authorize the board to approve conversion of a single-family dwelling to a multifamily dwelling in the R8 zoning district where the property is located. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. Mr. Castagnolo.
So I'm aware of this portion of the code regarding ordinance by council. I think the sort of uniqueness or quirk with this one is that the historical zoning summary card doesn't have it labeled solely as single-family dwelling, but as a single-family dwelling as an assisted living facility, which is, I think, unique in sort of thinking about the history of the properties in general. So this is not taking what was a single-family house as is normally listed solely as single-family and seeking a multi-unit conversion in a residential district, but some sort of aberration or evolution of the single-family dwelling into an assisted living facility that had no more than 4 unrelated people living as a family in it. I know you have access to the zoning card, but this here is the zoning card. And that's from 2001. And I don't think that use is explicitly outlined in the zoning code.
Family dwelling as assisted living. No more than. Okay. So we have, like we've had another case earlier today, I think, where we had a sort of a dual use. We had a dwelling unit and there was a commercial business, and so it wasn't a improper conversion because you're taking the commercial space to make it into another dwelling unit. But I think that was like a one-to-one situation. Here, I can't tell from this zoning card whether it's saying this is a single-family dwelling that's utilized as an assisted living versus this is a single-family dwelling and an assisted living.
I agree.
Another commercial business.
It's the first, not the second.
It is
So
a single-family
Family unit,
dwelling that's
no more than
operated
4.
as an assisted
Yeah,
living.
okay.
yes, so, and we're actually going to see a similar kind of situation later on today, but, so it's being used as a single-family dwelling with not more than 4 unrelated people as assisted living. So it's a residential use. The other situation, I think there was a retail goods store in the first floor and then a dwelling unit above. So that former retail store was being filled with a dwelling unit. And in this case, it's the entire property used as a single-family dwelling, not more than 4 unrelated people, but as assisted living.
Yeah, I don't think we have the authority.
Yeah, so I see a distinction between that and those situations where you can convert, because the entity or the thing we're talking about is a single-family dwelling. Here, it happens to be used as an assisted living, just as it could be used as a, I don't know. So
I mean, I question a little bit if, I my understanding of the basis of a single-family dwelling is one would expect a family to live there, potentially roommates to live here. Here we are explicitly calling out that this property is being used in a way that is above and beyond a standard single-family dwelling. This is not just solely a residential unit that a family is living in, or that a family is living, or some folks are living in with roommates. They're explicitly stating that this piece of property is like incurring commercial use as well. This assisted living nature is bringing in outside services into what would have otherwise been a house for living.
How do you know it was outside services? Maybe it was a person who lived there, who had relatives?
Very possible. I don't disagree with that. But it seems as if that there is like a peculiarity in the clarity of what this building used to be. And so why is this history being called out as having this assisted living tacked on to what could have otherwise been a standard single-family use?
I think it's single family, we don't have the authority.
Yeah, because in terms of what we can latch onto, we know the term single-family dwelling. This is identified on the card as a single-family dwelling, though it has more descriptive terms. And I agree with your point that there seems to be some more definition as to how this is being operated,
I'm sorry, I apologize. There is some other sort of uniqueness to this building. Though the previous use prior to the assisted living facility was 2 dwelling units, the building has 3 meters and 3 gas hookups, as well as I apologize. As well as a fire escape, which I didn't take a picture of, which is would be included as part of a multifamily dwelling for fire safety. So I think there's a handful of peculiarities associated with this building. When you walk in, it was evidently multifamily in some fashion.
So I'm looking at the actual use permit that was issued in December 2001, and it doesn't have, the actual use permit that was issued does not have any mention of assisted living. It says, use entire premises for 1 dwelling unit as a single-family attached dwelling for not more than 4 persons living as a family. And that's it. That's the last use permit that we have in the system.
That seems to be more restrictive than what's written on this.
I think from the zoning code in June, what was approved by the board, I believe, was single-family dwelling as assisted living, but what was actually issued as a use permit in December was this without the assisted living part included in the permit.
Okay. I think I heard all I need to hear. Any more questions for Mr. Casanova?
No.
Anything else you'd like to offer for the record?
Is there something you would like to share otherwise?
Just that, it's going to be really hard for us to change it now because it's already been set up as 3 units. That's going to be a big issue as far as the monetary amount, getting it to where it works. And then,
Why'd you move forward with the renovation?
what's that?
Why'd you move forward with the renovation if you didn't have any permission to
No,
do
we
it?
didn't.
You bought it like that?
Yeah.
Oh,
And then the other thing is too, if you're going to have 4 unrelated people living in the house, we're actually just trying to turn it into 3 one-bedroom apartments. So we'd actually be lowering the amount of people as opposed to, 2 to a room or however it was used before.
Understood.
so you didn't check any records before you bought the property?
Well, we went through, we looked at the property, we saw the meters, we saw the 3 gas hookups, we saw the 3 kitchens, and we probably should have done a little more due diligence.
And this peculiarity in the zoning history.
Yeah.
All right. If nothing else, we'll go to deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you.
I understand his point, but it's a single-family dwelling.
He's not the first one to buy a house with 3 meters.
Yeah.
It's time the city council do something about it.
Yeah.
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 What'd you say?
It's time for the city council to do something about it.
We have at least one every hearing.
Yeah,
It's-
sure.
It says single family, I don't think we
Yeah.
have the authority.
I'm
Can we write a letter? Can we do anything?
We
Tell them to do something?
Yeah, something should be done. But with regard to this matter, unfortunately, I think I'm a no, because I think I'm constrained by the.
I'm a no.
We don't have authority, yeah, no.
I'm a no.
Okay.
This is an R8, so they could go to city council.
Okay.
That doesn't change it for the ones that aren't R8, that still have the same issue.
Okay, calling case number, where am I?
338, Chapelgate.
Yeah.
Got it. Case number 2022-338, 526 South Chapelgate Lane. The appellant is 526 South Chapelgate LLC. Come on up, folks. This is a request to use the premises as a residential care facility up to 30 residents. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Let's get everyone sworn.
Swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
It used to be.
We'll hear from staff and planning.
Okay, so the one thing that you have before you is the conditional use as a residential care facility. I just wanted to point out, and this is in your memo, that the definition of residential care facility in a single-family dwelling, this is in an R4 zoning district. So this zoning district is generally restricted to single-family dwellings, although this is, as a conditional use, can be approved. The definition of residential care facility says that it has to comply with the definitions of dwelling unit and the definition of family. And the definition of family says a group of not more than 4 people. So anyway, Mr. French and I had a discussion about this earlier today. He may have more to say on this topic or maybe not. But it's hard to see how this application would comply with the definition of family, since the definition of family says not more than 4 unrelated people living together as a dwelling unit, in a dwelling unit.
Thank you. The planning department has reviewed this application, noted that the current use of the property is as a residential care facility for up to 16 residents, which is a permitted use in the R4 zoning district. The applicant is proposing to increase the number of residents to 30, so that's a 16 resident increase. The building itself is certainly large enough to accommodate the proposed use. The property contains about 3 2/3 acres, so it's a very substantial property with considerable setbacks from any neighboring residences. The department therefore doesn't see this conditional use as likely to have any effects upon any neighboring properties. The application also proposes using a total of 9 bedrooms, and one of the things that of course is a fact in the zoning code is there is no limit on the number of bedrooms in a dwelling unit. So this property, as Ms. Wood is indicating, might be construed as a single dwelling unit with 9 bedrooms. However, the department has no objections to the application as it is filed. Thank you.
And just generally, what was the recommendation based on?
Well, the department is not making a recommendation. We have no objection to approval of the application.
And why is that?
Basically, we're saying no objection because the size of the property is such that we do not see there are any potential problems that would arise from approval of the application. They have ample parking areas, they have ample grounds around the property, and the building itself is quite large. The building is roughly 74 feet by 60 feet, 2
What about the
stories.
provisions of the code as?
Well, the department's determination essentially is that a residential care facility of 16 or less people is permitted by the zoning code. So the question is, what is the distinction between, in terms of meeting that bedroom requirement that Ms. Witt referred to, dwelling unit requirement, that Ms. Witt referred to, between having 16 people in the building versus having more than 16 people in the building?
16 people.
Well, there are more people, but has it changed the property in terms of its physical use
It sounds like you guys
by
are
more
kind
than
of
4
picking and
people
choosing as you
in
please.
a dwelling unit. And we see that the code is already allowing more than 4 people in a dwelling unit,
And who wrote that?
mayor and city council.
No, who wrote the planning recommendation, or lack of recommendation, or whatever it is?
Oh, this was based upon a recommendation from our community planner for the Southwest District.
I think what this discussion already is pointing out is that there is something strange going on in the definition of residential care facility, because if up to 16 people is permitted by right, but they have to comply with the definition of a family, those are two incompatible.
How can a residential care facility have to comply with the definition of family? Like, that's not what a residential care facility is.
It's in the, well, just in terms of how many people live there. Yeah,
Couldn't we just consider the other 16, what is it, customary household helpers or whatever? Because those don't count for family, according to the code.
Anyway, I just thought I would point it out as being a confusing and contradictory section in the code.
It feels very old.
Yeah. Maybe needs to be changed by city council, so.
So would it be different if this was not in R4?
So as far as I can tell, I mean, I can look up the section of the code and answer that. I think that this applies to all of the, what we generally refer to as single-family districts, which is R1 through R4.
Should we let these people present their,
Yeah, we should. Did we get everybody sworn? Everybody was sworn? Yeah, okay. All right, we'll hear from 526 South Chapelgate LLC, and just state your name for the record, please.
My name is Bryce Hudak. I'm a managing member for 526 South Chapelgate.
Okay.
H-U-D-A-K. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Michelle Eddings, I'm the facilities coordinator for Chapelgate.
EDD.
EDDINGS.
Thank you.
Sean Augustus, I am the director of admissions for the program.
And is that S-E-A-N?
Yes.
And is this intended to be a standard residential care facility for people?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
is it, or, tell us about your project.
Sure. So the organization that will be using the facility is University Psychological Center. It's been in operation since the late 70s. Been a state certified and licensed facility in Baltimore, Maryland since 1995. So this isn't something new that is that we've been doing. We currently have 8 different facilities that are in operation throughout Baltimore, north, south, east, west. And our goal has been to consolidate some of the smaller bed properties into a larger facility, which is where Chapelgate is coming to play here. Our facilities are staffed 24/7. We provide mental health and substance abuse services. We've been nationally accredited since 2015. We're not a new program. This is not something that is new in terms of the nature of our business. I've been with the organization for 15 years. Colleagues here have been here for a substantial amount of time as well. And so again, we are an established program and do understand the operations and the risks here to the community. Our goal is, to be a good community partner and working with, different members. As I did mention, we do have staffing on site 24/7. We do monitor our patients on a regular basis. We do not have a lot of, coming and going of the facility. But our goal here is, again, just to kind of consolidate some of our smaller units into a larger facility.
What's the present use?
Currently, I believe the previous tenant, it was a safe haven for sex workers. And so that was what it was used prior to.
Yeah,
Women who were sex trafficked. I stand corrected, sorry.
It's vacant now.
It is vacant now, yes.
And so you're not seeking to utilize it for 16 because you're trying to consolidate and make it larger. You are looking for 30 residents.
So the previous UNO was based off of 2 floors of occupancy, and I believe the 3rd floor was not being used at that time. We would like to use the 3rd floor of the facility, which would expand the UNO.
So how many smaller facilities would you close down?
We are putting 3 facilities into that, and they were all 7 and 8 bed units.
What's going to become of them?
Those will be sold off and no longer used.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Sir.
My name is Greg Matthews. I own the property 20 feet from their property.
Which one is yours? In which direction?
Right at the corner. I'm the left of the house directly before you get to their property on the.
You can point to it. Here, I can unplug my computer.
So, let's see.
And if you need, that's the best picture I could
That's
find.
the best picture. So if the property is.
You can point us in the general direction.
Here.
That's the front of it, yep.
Front of it? Okay, so my house would be entrance to their house. Can't see if I can understand it from this picture. This
Here.
is South Chapel here, this Chapel Lane?
Let me try it, let me see.
Is it the White
Oh.
House?
Is that better?
It's the Gray House.
You talking
That's
down this
better.
street?
Right, so,
Oh, sorry, I'll go back.
right, so,
Go for it.
Right here?
right
It
here.
would be right here if we
Right,
could
I'm
see
the,
it.
I'm the house right here before you enter their property.
Okay,
Okay. Thank you.
thank you.
So, my concerns are, we have an abundance of children. I'm a grandfather. I have grandkids that play out there. From my understanding, these are going to be 30 men. There's no fencing around my property or their property. My other concern is that across from their property, 30 feet, there's a school that houses children with behavior that are bussed in the morning. So behind the building, there's residence for children that have bad behavior, and directly in front of their property is a school for children with bad behavior. So we do have some incidents and issues, the children, but nothing the police department can't handle, but it does get busy at times, because these are kids with behaviors, you know. So putting two things with behavior issues, and these are men, close to small children, and we have small children in the neighborhood, it doesn't look like their property. I mean, it's a large property, but there are houses adjacent to it. We didn't get any notice, no one came and talked to anybody and said what, you know, we were doing, but we are concerned about 30 men and children in a school and the residents. Majority of the residents have small kids, so, and it's like I said, if you see by the properties, nothing's gated in, nothing's closed in. So that's just, as a resident, my concern. As a veteran, I've lived with 15, 20, 30 men in large facilities. There's always going to be a problem. And that's nothing that the Army can't handle, but you have gentlemen with issues, there's going to be some issues and some problems. From my understanding in my life.
Understood. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can I kind of speak to that?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, I'm sorry, sir, your name again?
Greg Matthews.
Mr. Matthews, I appreciate your information and your input today. And maybe I need to just, so our agency, these are adult men, correct? But we've been in business and we've done business within the state of Maryland, within the city of Baltimore for at least the 15 years, 13 years that I've been there. And we take pride in our program. We also have a women and children's program that we oversee and operate. So one of our biggest issues is community safety, adherence, and working with the individuals within the community to provide, to understand what's happening within that community. And also, you mentioned the other program that's like 20 feet from us, that the school that buses in individuals that have issues with troubled youth. Right. As long as I've been a staff here at this agency, we've never experienced having to have the police come to our facility to mitigate any circumstances where someone got out of hand. That hasn't been our case. That is just not what we do.
Have you operated facilities with?
Yes,
30 men
we operate a facility right now that has 16 men.
And the issues of these men, these are not like registered sex offenders that you're all
So
putting
what
together,
we do, I'm the person that is at the kind of the admissions process. We vet several of the people within our program, but every patient that comes in it goes through a vetting process. These are individuals who who suffer from substance abuse and possible mental health issues. One of our goals is to help spearhead their reintroduction into the community in a safe, conducive, healthy environment. This is not a program where individuals are free to just roam about willy-nilly and do whatever they want and come and go all throughout all times of the night.
Well, tell us about that. What is in place, or what would be in place on site?
On site?
At this location, with
Oh.
regard to, mitigating any potential problems, enhancing safety, and is this these are folks who will be living here, not that will come there every day and leave?
Correct.
Okay.
So our houses are staffed 24/7 with clinical staff and peers. And then we've also taken the steps to put in security cameras and motion censored. So all of the windows, all of the exit doors, everything. So if anything was to open inside of the house to go out, our staff is going to know. We have, I can't forget what they're called. The camera system is connected to several offices inside the house. So where those people are going to be stationed, where they're going to be working, and then they also make rounds, random rounds, and then rounds that have to be done every so often throughout the house to make sure that everybody is where they're supposed to be. But it's a program, not incarceration. So we're trying to help them re-enter. So it's about, building those behaviors, changing them.
Was there an attempt to meet with the surrounding neighbors or neighborhood associations?
The surrounding neighbor that is closest to us, I've met with him. He's, on board. I've contacted the school a few times.
Is the school the white building right there?
It's Rika.
It's not, so you'd have to see it. It comes up there.
Okay.
And it goes back that way.
The school's back there?
Yeah, like if you could get an area, another.
This
there
is
another
Redfin.
area?
I can
Oh.
try. Google Maps wouldn't give me a good
So
picture of it.
there's a shared driveway that goes in. Our property is on the right. There's a White House on the right with the gentleman that lives there, and then the school is on the left. This gentleman lives before that kind of shared driveway, right at the entrance of it. So everybody
Did you
that
make an
was,
attempt to meet with him?
I did not. Everybody inside of there, I've reached out to them, but on the outside where all of the houses are, I have not.
Did you indicate you met with one person?
I met with the single man that lives on the house that's closest.
This house?
One person?
White House, yes.
This.
And then I left the school several messages so that we could kind of let them know, who we are and kind of what we're doing.
Did you,
Go ahead, point out.
That, which is a facility.
That's the school?
That's the school.
Okay.
Because that's the shared driveway that comes up.
Uh-huh.
And you turn left, right into our property, you keep straight into that property, which sits back there.
And Mr. Matthews, where's your house? Do you know where your house is on this one?
My house is at the beginning of Chapelgate Lane.
House would be kind of, when you, this street right here,
Mm-hmm.
so when you come down this street, it would be somewhere in here.
Yeah, it's several single-family unit
Mhm.
houses that sit in a row and.
Is that Wilson Street?
That's Williston.
Yeah.
And talking to my neighbors, none of us knew until I happened to see the sign, because where their property sits in my house, it's tucked back.
Okay.
is there a
So-
community association?
There's no community
Talking to
association.
the microphone, sir.
We haven't had a problem.
Sir, step over to we're going kind of out of order, but
I'm sorry,
this is
yeah.
helpful information.
There's no community association. The neighbors are pretty tight-knit. We've been there for years with one another. It's a mixed community. We get along very well. Things work out. With the building and the housing, the women that were there, we worked very well together. We talked, kind of looked out for one another. If somebody's coming on the property, I'd call up to the house and let them know, hey, somebody's going up your driveway. But we had no discussion at all with this.
Let me interrupt you for just a second and ask you, what do you need from them for your relationship with this facility to work just like the facility?
I'm just a little bit concerned. A lot of times I'm out there with my grandkids.
Are you on
I'm
their
just-
property with your grandkids? Or are
I'm
you
on
on
our property is 18, 20 feet apart from one another.
I understand.
So my concern is 30 men. Like I said, I'm an ex-veteran. I know with 30 men
You
and how to
understand
get.
not discriminate based on gender or
I'm not
sex, right?
discriminating on gender, but that's a lot of people in a 9-bedroom house, an 8-bedroom house.
So, I'll ask my question one more time. What is it that, what, if anything, is it that you need from them?
Security. I need to know that there's some securities in place, more than cameras. People dive past cameras. There's issues. You're doing a great thing. Don't get me wrong. I really appreciate what you're doing because communities need it. They do need it. But I'm just concerned about schools and kids. That's just my concern. I'm a grandfather of 12. So I'm really concerned about school and kids. That's my life now. So I'm just bringing that up to the board of how I feel, and they really need to talk to some of the people in the community, the homeowners there. We've been there 25, 30 years. And just knock on the door. We're willing to talk. But none of my neighbors have talked to them. But if something happened, we'll be the first ones to reach out to them.
With your other facilities around the city, do you generally meet with the neighbors or the neighborhood associations?
So we typically meet with the neighborhood associations, and Mr. Matthews, I'm sorry, we haven't met with you before that. You know, I do want to let you know, in terms of the patients that we serve, you know, again, they have substance use disorders, they have mental health disorders. We do screen out sex offenders, we do screen out violent crimes. You know, our facilities are staffed 24/7, and for a facility like this, we would have 2 staff members at all times. And this is staffing, again, 24/7, 365, so it's not like they are just kind of on their own and living independently. We have security systems on the outside. We have security systems on the inside. There are monitors within the facility between the different offices for those staffing.
Let me ask you a question with regard to your operations. I imagine there's outside time for these individuals?
So we have, you know, if there are any visitations or any scheduled time, that is, you know, scheduled within, you know, certain parameters for those patients. They do not.
Visitations, outside folks to visit the residents?
So we would typically allow, you know, 1 to 2 visitations per week. And so again, these aren't free access. There aren't people coming and going as they want. You know, if patients are to go outside of the facility, what we call rec time, you know, rec time is scheduled. These are things that are very organized in a way so that people aren't coming and going. You know, we have liability as a program, and so if patients are, you know, moving about independently in the community, there's a liability for us as well if they were to get into trouble or something else were to happen. And these are things that we're very in tune with, just to, again, try to be, you know, respectful neighbors and be careful of the safety of the program. We did look at, you know, having our women and children in this facility, which was, you know, one of the original thoughts that we did have for the program. We opted against that because of the wear and tear and noise and volume and kind of the risk that we would have with having the kids kind of move about in a facility that large. But we do hear you loud and clear, and, you know, I would love to come down and meet with the rest of the neighbors to, you know, give my personal information, try to give other references for other neighborhood associations that we've worked with so that you can understand the partnership that we try to have.
Would you like to take advantage of that opportunity to go and meet with them and then come back and talk to us, and we'll have the results of that interaction?
Standing on this side next time. Maybe. I'm not saying definitely, but maybe.
Not definitely, but it's always a maybe.
So one of the things we do when we find that there has been sort of not necessarily an impasse, but maybe just not an opportunity for the sides to meet to address those concerns and to maybe work to compromise those and alleviate them. It's always better at least give an opportunity, because once we rule, we rule. And so we're happy to give you that opportunity to postpone the matter, to take that exercise to meet with folks and reach some accommodations or certainly some understanding, and then come back and then we can hear your matter.
This is something we do on a regular basis.
I'm sorry?
We do this.
This is something we do on a regular basis.
Okay.
And I think it's probably more difficult because there is no community association you could reach out to directly.
Right.
But we encourage you all to exchange contact information so that you can contact them, they can contact you. And by default of your being here, you get to be in charge of your neighbors. To make sure
That's
that.
not bad. They're good neighbors.
Okay, just to make sure that anyone else who wants to be heard and wants to understand what's going on with this project has the opportunity to. Yeah.
Would you like to take advantage of that opportunity?
Sure.
Yeah.
That'll
Okay.
make you guys feel more comfortable, 100%.
Thanks for doing that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's helpful to the board as we consider, you know, everything that's brought before us.
Okay.
We'll go ahead and postpone this matter. You can contact the zoning office.
Is that something that we could potentially schedule at this time?
Sure, you can, would November 1st work for a rescheduled date?
I am at the liberty of everybody else here. Well, accommodate what needs to be.
Yes, I'm seeing nods. Okay.
We're waiting for.
November 1st?
Oh.
November 1st.
November 1st.
The boss, no.
Is that your wife?
Definitely.
I need to change the sign.
Yes, please.
Okay. Same time?
Date and location. Time stays the same.
Time
Will we
stays
be
the
on
same.
November 1?
We will be in the planning department, so we'll send you an email with the updated location of the sign and the date to confirm that.
Okay. And I'll get that email. The sign needs to be posted, updated and posted by when?
As soon as possible, but I would say just sometime this week would be good.
If I can add a clarification on there, because I know the request was for.
Step up to the mic if you would.
I'm sorry, I have a real monotone voice. I know in our request that we put up to 30, we're only seeking 22, which is, I wasn't going to bring fire code and all that stuff up here because I know it's not the place to do that, but we're seeking 22 is the actual number. I know 8, 16 to 22 to 8, there's, not sure what that matters, but I do want to clarify that with you and with you guys here as well.
Is that an official amending of your application? No.
No.
Okay.
No,
That's
I
just
just
information.
wanted to share that information at this time.
Okay. Very well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your time. See you back.
Do we need to go off the record for whatever this is?
Well, we're on the record.
Filing class of 89.
Oh, there you go.
All right. Okay.
That should stay on the record.
Do we have one more, or can we just?
No, we have one more. Let's go. Yeah, we do. We have Mr. Caballo.
Oh.
Toon Street.
Rascals.
So calling case of 2022-346, 3423 Toon Street. Adam Caballo, the appellant. This matter addresses variances to bulk regulations to construct a 3-story rear addition and penthouse with rooftop deck. Welcome. Let's get the party sworn.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
I do. Thank you.
Hear from staff and planning.
Okay, 3 variances, well, 1 conditional use and 2 variances being requested. Maximum building height, 35 feet is allowed, 45 feet proposed, so it's a 10-foot. Conditional use building height requested. Maximum lot coverage, 60% is allowed, 100% is proposed, so it's a 40% variance. 85% currently exists already. And a minimum rear yard setback, 20 feet is required, 0 is proposed, so it's a 20-foot variance requested. And I believe that this is on the contested docket because there's a community member who signed in opposition.
Yes, that is the next door neighbor, Miss Lynn. We met with her outside at the beginning of the afternoon, and her major concern was sunlight to her garden in the back. And
What was the outcome of your conversation?
she also wanted to understand what the project was.
Okay.
She got better informed.
Yes. Yeah.
And she's not here.
She was satisfied by our explanation of what the project was. We've also had extensive community and outreach. We've met with the CCA, Canton Community Association, several times. We've had a lot of back and forth with them. I also have.
Hang on one second, Mr. Caballo. Did we get your report, Mr. Friend?
Planning Department has no comment on this application.
It would be. Go ahead.
And then, if I can just kind of start from the top. This is an existing 4-unit apartment building at the corner of Toon and Bayless Street, sort of, Brewers Hill, Canton area. Mr. Lopez has purchased the property to convert it to a single-family house. He is going to move there. This will be his primary residence for his growing family, kind of in line with exactly what the mayor and city council want. They want to retain families in the neighborhood. We're actually taking a fairly rundown, pretty awful apartment building and turning into a single-family house. This particular property is nearly 100% lot coverage as it is. There is as you can see from the site plan, there is a detached garage at the rear. There's a small interior court. That court is fairly occupied by a staircase. So I would argue that it's, even though technically it is 85% lot coverage as it is, it's closer to 95% lot coverage as it is. We're simply removing that courtyard. There's a very poorly constructed 1-story addition in the middle, removing that, and then basically reconstructing those elements and then going up to basically build a single-family house. One unique element of this is that we are proposing a cantilever on the 2nd and 3rd floor over the sidewalk, over the property line. And the purpose of that is to provide 3 bedrooms on the 2nd floor, so that Michael and his wife have their bedroom. They have a bedroom for their child, as well as, you know, a future child in the other bedroom. It's very important for families to have 3 bedrooms on the same level. It's one reason why, you know, a lot of newer construction homes in Canton sell so quickly, because a lot of times they do provide those 3 bedrooms on the same living level. Most of the housing stock in not even just in Canton, but just in Baltimore in general, in these more sort of denser neighborhoods, only provide for 2 bedrooms on a main living level, which is really difficult for most families if they have more than one child. So this really, not only for the tenure that the Lopez's will live here, but for the future of the neighborhood, having another property that has 3 bedrooms on the main level is really important, I think, for the neighborhood, because it retains families in the neighborhood. Further to that, as we mentioned, we, you know, met with the Canton Community Association. We met with them several times. They did have, you know, they sort of, you know, I believe there was an email that was sent by Doug Kaufman, who is the chair of that group. He neither supported or opposed our request. There was some question about the cantilever. However, in the packet that we've mailed, there are numerous examples of cantilevers. And, you know, specifically, you know, if you notice, this is our property here, Toon Street. The entire block, just immediately to the north, has a 2-story cantilever that runs the entire length of the block. Again, right over the street, versus this is going to be literally a 2-foot cantilever, which is the width of this podium, over a sidewalk that's going to be 9 feet up in the air. Not really going to, but that is so important and integral to this project, because it allows, that extra 2 feet in a narrow row house allows for a usable bedroom, that middle bedroom that is so sort of desired and needed. So that's sort of speaking to the lot coverage, the rear yard setback. And I will mention also that one concern that Ms. Lynn had, you know, about, you know, just understanding the project. We are actually setting back the 3rd floor, which is, you know, basically the 1st floor already exists. We're adding a 2nd floor, and then the 3rd floor will be set back. So we are making mention, or at least not trying to overwhelm her back garden. Not that she has a right to a view, or, you know, he's allowed to build, you know, he's allowed to build on his property. But I will also note that if you look at the site plan, you know, we're here sort of, you have Toon Street, you have Bayless to the east, you have South Highland Avenue to the west. If you look at the bookend property at the corner of Toon and South Highland, that is a 100% lot coverage single-family home that has numerous bay window projections that project out over the sidewalk, both on the 2nd and 3rd floor. This almost sort of bookends that same concept. And then there is, running east-west, immediately to the north, there are 4-story homes, new construction, that were built in the last few years. Again, 4-story homes run the length of the block, 2-story cantilever. And then immediately to the east, you have a large apartment building, a 5-story apartment building. The massing fits very, very well within the context of all these other larger structures. You know, not to mention, we have, you know, aside from, you know, Canton Community Association, the community outreach, Mr. Lopez went around and he has literally, you know, 24 letters of support from, you know, neighboring properties in the area. So there's a lot of support for this project, you know, and minimal opposition, if any, for that matter. And I'm happy to include this in the record as well.
Yeah, I think this is part of our packet, because I'm looking at it here online.
I believe so, yeah. We emailed not only this clarifying information, but also those letters of support.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Carballo?
Nope.
Thank you for taking the time to talk with,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ms.
Yeah.
Lynn.
That was very helpful, obviously, and
We don't often see multifamily to single family.
Yeah.
No.
Love to see more of those.
Yeah. Well, and part of Mr. Lopez's sort of, he's, been in the city for quite some time, spent nearly a year looking for the appropriate property. He was looking for a corner property that he could make, his family home. And he's a broker, he's a realtor. It's not like doesn't know where to look.
Right.
But he went through an extensive search to find just the right property that, hopefully he'll enjoy for many years to come.
excellent. All right. Any more questions?
Nope.
All right. Thanks, guys, for your presentation.
Thank you.
Does it go back on consent?
Well, I'd say I'm a yes, so.
I'm a yes.
I'm a yes.
I consent.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you, guys. Good job.
Okay. I think we are off the record then for today. Thank you so much.